Roze of the Recapture has officially ended, at least for now, and if you were fortunate enough to not have watched it, but want to know what happened anyways, well, this video is for you. Here is a compilation of all of my episode breakdowns into one video for your convenience, complete with timestamps in the description. Before we start, don't forget to leave a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin the recap of Roze of the Recapture.
あれから世界は随分とマシになったよ。社会は世界にはそれでも大きく変わろうとしてるよ。なんならルルもこの世界を見られるといいな。エリア11と
Drop of that oil is worth more than any of you 11s.
Roze of the Recapture begins with a flashback to two mysterious girls who flee from the Camdens, a new nightmare frame to the series. It appears that the pilot specifically went after them. One shot from the nightmare frame sends both of the girls flying, and despite their best attempt to stay together, they ultimately become separated. We then get the traditional Geass style opening narration. After Lelouch destroyed the Britannian Empire, it broke up into several nations. Schneizel controlled most of the nations called the Britannian Republic. The other nations broke the peace by invading the Hokkaido bloc of Japan. They seem to have a Damocles with them.
They have a Damocles!
They conquered the Hokkaido bloc to establish the Neo-Britannian Empire. Japan is now once again under control of Britannia, just like old times. The story then takes place 4 years later, showing us our main protagonist, Roze and Ash. Roze is studying the Satum barrier, while Ash works on his nightmare frame, the Z Apollo. One of the things we learn early on is that Roze loves cats. We then go to a horrific scene where Ron and Greed kill innocent Japanese civilians that they claim are terrorists. This is reminiscent of the massacres from the original anime. Ron explains exactly why things are like this. The governor of the Hokkaido bloc, Jugo Sumeragi, is dead, and they have his daughter Sakuya as their prisoner. They are using the Satum wall to keep the Black Knights from retaking the area. Ironic, since it was originally created to protect the area against Britannia. The massacre continues throughout the night, and Roze learns about it in the morning. They stop at a gas station and witness that good old-fashioned Britannian racism that we all know and love. Roze then talks to the person in charge privately to change his mind. Once they come back, that guy is surprisingly kind to the Japanese girl. This is because Roze used his Geass on him. We then pan over to the 7 stars who contemplate hiring Roze and Ash for a mission. It's not clear when this organization formed or its exact location. Apparently, they decided to trust them because of their previous operations that involved killing Britannian officials and saving Japanese lives in the process. We also learned that Roze and Ash have been doing this since last year. Roze and Ash stop for a moment to rescue some kittens, which Roze then proceeds to sniff. Interesting behavior. It turns out part of their trailer is actually a home for stray animals that they collect. The hope is to help them find a proper home, so they run an animal shelter on the side. They then travel to an abandoned theater to meet up with Haruka, who's going by the alias Black Cat. She gives the task to hunt down Gran and Greed, who are killing Japanese civilians. They even killed her family. So after hearing her out, Ash and Roze take the job to kill the brothers. At their base, Ron learns that they finished off the terrorists in their area while communicating with his brother Greed. Greed references Norlon, which is the leader of the Einberg, and this is the first time they mention him in the series. Everything seemed to be going well until something unexpected happened. Ash and Roze make a cool appearance. They gift wrapped the Z Apollo, then revealed it to the Britannian forces. Roze then taunts their forces, guaranteeing their defeat. He explained that they were hired to stop them from killing more Japanese people. Ash then moves in to take out the enemy nightmare frames, seemingly with ease. Roze signals to Haruka that things are going well, and Ash creates a hole in the castle to allow Roze to get inside. Gran joins the battle in his nightmare frame, while Roze heads deeper into the castle. Roze surprises Greed in his room by pointing his own gun at him. We see all of Greed's soldiers unconscious on the floor outside, because again, Roze used Geass on them. Then he challenges him to a chess game using the nightmare frames on the battlefield as pieces. Roze then leads Greed's forces into a trap by gathering them all into one location. As he declares checkmate, Ash activates the Magista Zeta, which allows him to travel at lightning speeds, increasing his attack power. Ash wipes out all of Gron's forces with ease and then brutally kills Gron himself. With his brother's forces gone, Roze then declares victory over Greed. Greed attempts to save his life by threatening Roze, claiming that killing him will make them enemies of Norlan. This doesn't dissuade Roze, then he deactivates his collar to reveal her true identity as Sakuya Sumeragi. This of course surprises Greed, since she's supposed to be in the prison. We learn that Greed and Gron's family, Kirkween, were supposed to take care of Sakuya's family. She knew that the brothers, even back then, hated the Japanese people and killed many during Britannia's occupation of Japan. The brothers later on colluded with Neo-Britannian forces to help them invade the Hokkaido bloc, and it turns out in the prologue, those girls were Sakuya and Sakura. Greed and Gron were the ones piloting those nightmare frames that attacked them. They are the reason for why they were separated. Greed gets annoyed, demanding that Sakuya finish him off. Instead, Sakuya uses her Geass to give him a choice to either save 100 times the Japanese people that he has killed or commit suicide. Greed chooses to kill himself, which gives us some more insights into how Sakuya's Geass works. It also seems to be based on sound, not eye contact, like Rei's Geass from Lost Colors. After this, Sakuya becomes Roze again, then reunites with Ash and Haruka. Roze reveals her knowledge that the real mission is to save the Seven Stars leader, and this was just a test run. We see more of the animal shelter, then Roze joins up with the Seven Stars to rescue the Seven Stars comrades in that jail. Sakuya then thinks about the main reason for doing this, to save her childhood friend Sakura, and then the episode ends. Episode 2, Ice Wall, begins by showing us exactly why the Seven Shining Stars need Roze and Ash's help to rescue their leader Kuroto.
How could you trust Britannian mercenaries?
Racism. You gotta love it. Several members of the Seven Shining Stars attempt to assault the prison using Katskis and the floating jump pads. One of the nightmare frames is stopped by the Setup wall because the wall acts like a Gefion disturber. Inamoto ignores Isao and continues his assault using the red Akatsuki, but dies alongside his squad when the prison fires homing missiles at them. The next day, Isao asks Roze to watch the footage from last night's failed attempt to break into the prison. Ash, in the meantime, gives his doggy a bath. Roze thanks him for the data and says it'll come in handy. This pisses off Lupin III, Oda, because it seems like Roze doesn't care what happened to those soldiers. But Roze just feels that moping around isn't going to accomplish anything, and feels that using the data to help in their mission is the best way to honor their memory. Roze then confirms that the Seven Shining Stars still want their help and apologizes to Oda, so everything is good again. Ash's dog comes back from his bath to shake the water on Oda. This of course pissed him off, and Ash gets there in the nick of time to save his dog. Yoko and her large bust find this behavior adorable, but seeing her embarrasses Ash, so he hides behind Oda. Apparently this is how we know Ash is a virgin. Also, Yoko loves that Ash is both strong and submissive. Yay. Haruka is not amused and tells everyone to get together or the Seven Shining Stars will die. After the exciting intro, we pan to the prison where Arnold and male Valletta are discussing Kuroto, who was a former bodyguard to Jugo and leader of the Seven Shining Stars. He figures that with his execution day coming up, the 11s will try to rescue him. The warden tells him to not worry about it, but Arnold doesn't care because Norlan ordered him to be there. After the meeting, Arnold talks to male Valletta about the nameless mercenaries killing the Kirkween brothers. Arnold figures that he might have to face them and is excited to do so. Then the story shows a cafe introducing us to the Queen of Fan Service Catherine, an Einberg member. She's enjoying some tea until a messenger informs her that Norlon is requesting her assistance. Catherine is not amused. We then go back to the 7 Shining Stars as they prepare a rocket that will transport Ash and Roze to the prison since they don't have float units yet. Ash and Roze agreed to keep the side mission of rescuing Sakura a secret. Ash gets the Z Apollo ready, but then Roze surprises him by coming on board. Despite his initial opposition, Ash agrees to the plan. Also, Rose's neck pillow is adorable. They fire the rocket, and Roze and Ash are able to land on the prison. After the landing, Roze was unconscious, so Ash woke him up. He also informed the 7 Shining Stars of his progress, so they headed out to attack the prison as well. Arnold learns that someone has landed on the prison and is excited to use his nightmare frame. Roze makes it to the command center and uses her Geass to force the commander to free the prisoners. The 7 Shining Stars are able to break into the prison and express their shock that Ash and Roze pulled it off. We also get a nice view of Hadouka's ass as she seemingly replaced Colin for the female pilot that we get awesome angles for. Sakuya and Sakura reunite after all these years. We learn that Sakura has always been Sakuya's decoy. Then Sakuya recounts a childhood memory. The reunion is interrupted when that guy from earlier informs Sakuya that Catherine, an Ironberg member, is on her way. Sakuya then decides to get the move on to move Sakura out of there. The 7 Shining Stars find abandoned Camdens and fire them up to help free the prisoners. But then Arnold shows up in his nightmare frame, accompanied by his Camdens. The fighting then begins, and despite Hadouka's best efforts, the Camdens take her nightmare frame out. She claims that their specs are far greater than the Akatsuki's. Ash, meanwhile, is having no issues in wiping out the Camdens, including using the Predator Claw to rip out a cockpit. Eventually, Ash and Arnold run into each other. Then we pan to Sakuya and Sakura, where both take their sweet time getting to the shuttle. This gives Catherine enough time to recapture Sakura and take out the Camdens assisting them. Roze is shocked and frustrated by the whole situation. Also, the airship Catherine used reminds me of the one in the original anime. Back to the battle, Catherine informs Arnold that she recaptured the princess, so everything is good, but Arnold has unfinished business. Roze then frees Kuroto and reveals that she's Sakuya. This gains his trust and he agrees to help her. Back to the battle again, and this time Arnold figures out that Ash is the pilot of the Z Apollo based on his movements. Arnold remembers him during his time as a Britannian soldier. Ash during that time was a Britannian assassin. After Ash kills male Valletta, Arnold joins the fray, calling him Ash Phoenix. Arnold is confused about his motivations, and all Ash can do is discuss his brother. This further confuses Arnold. Ash initially struggles to take out Arnold because his nightmare frame has really powerful shields. But then he uses the Megista Zeta and then kills Arnold. Arnold dies in a similar way to Jeremiah. Maybe there's a reason for that parallel. After this, everyone escapes the prison and later that night celebrate the victory. On the roof, Roze discusses their current progress in freeing Kuroto while taking out 3 Ironberg members. Roze tells Ash that Neo Britannia took Sakura to their government office located in the capital. Then things get weird as Roze randomly asks Ash, "Is there someone who means more to you than anything?" When Ash tries to answer, we get a flashback revealing that Sakuya used Geass on Ash so he would act as her brother. It seems like the command makes him only worry about Roze. Ash heads back inside, and with his back turned, we get another crazy twist where Roze declares that after destroying Neo Britannia and rescuing Sakura, she will avenge her father and kill Ash, which means that Ash killed her father.
Be warned, the king's power may isolate you. Geass will be taken from those lacking resolve, for those that do have the resolve.
The power of the king will condemn you to solitude. Do you desire power? It will drive away those most precious to you.
Yes, you heard that right. Lelouch, the goat, has returned. And I'll talk about that, but first, let's discuss how we got here. After losing twice to the nameless mercenaries and the 7 stars, the Ironberg decided to collectively wipe out all the Japanese resistance groups. Not sure how they found the location of each of their bases, but whatever. The episode starts by showing us their attack on the respective bases, starting with the Eastern Dawn Brigade headquarters. It's there that we finally see Nara, the best girl in Roze of Recapture, taking out the Japanese nightmare frames. Man, she is so beautiful. Ow, what the hell was that for? Alright, sorry. Anyways, everyone seems aware of Nara, so Tomi calls for a retreat. Also, Nara's introduction is similar to Cornelia's from Stage 5. Then we move to the North Wolf Army headquarters, where they are also battling the Ironberg. Their leader, Iwamoto, orders everyone to evacuate the base, but unfortunately, Scissorman, or should I say Kristoff Scissorman, an Ironberg member, attacks many of the fleeing forces. Then we see the next Ironberg member, Heath Lot, who attacks the Seven Shining Stars base. Oda and the other members get ready to intercept his forces. Meanwhile, Roze and Kuroto are discussing their counter plans in a van, and once she's ready, Roze tells everyone to begin Operation Rat Trap.
Call me Rat Trap.
No, not that rat trap.
So, this is your first day on the job or what?
Shut up, Rat Trap.
We'll have to wait later on to learn what happened, because now it's time for the intro. After the exciting intro, we go to the Black Knight's base in Japan, where two members Shiro and Kori are Skyping with the UFN. The UFN members discuss how two resistance groups have fallen, but then Shiro is quick to point out that the Seven Shining Stars led by Kuroto have repelled the enemy. The UFN member with amazing orange hair immediately counters by pointing out that they took out low-level Ironberg members and that the high-ranking members, as well as the majority of Neo-Britannia forces, remain intact. To be fair, this man is based as hell. We are then reminded of the two failed Black Knight operations to save the Hokkaido block, something I'm still angry about. Then they ask about the Setup Wall, the plot contrivance so the story can occur in the first place. The UFN member asks how their analysis is going, and what do they have to say after 4 years? Drumroll, please. We're still working on it. I don't know. How about this? Just shoot the towers since the Setup Wall only affects nightmare frames. God, this part is so dumb. Anyways, the man with orange hair points out that Norlan is crazy and is up to something greater than simply evading and taking control of the Hokkaido block. After all, he did kill the envoy dispatched for peace talks. The only positive thing I can say is at least Kaga came back out of retirement to help out. Yes, that actually happened.
But that's a story for another time.
Because now it's time for fan service. At the Samari Cafe, the series answers a question that many men of culture have been wondering since we learned that Roze is actually Sakya. How does Sakya keep her large melons concealed while acting as Roze? Answer: with the strongest, most magical chest binder in the world. Seriously, she's well endowed, my god. Anyways, we then pan to Neo-Britannian government office where the Ironberg members meet. Kristoff discussed his and Nara's success in wiping out the resistant forces. He then pointed out that Heath didn't. Heath is then quick to defend his actions. This is where we learned what happened at the beginning of the episode. Apparently, he fell for Roze's trap where he followed them into the warehouse single file and then it blew up, destroying all of his forces.
What an idiot! Oh, what a loser!
Somehow during this, he starts panicking and freaking out. I think Norlan was doing something to him. Norlan then tells Heath to vanish, so later that night he killed himself.
What a waste.
And the worst part?
I don't care!
The next day, Kristoff talks to Norlan about losing Heath and that they need to recruit more members. They pass Natalia during this conversation, so of course he asked her if she'd be interested in joining them. Natalia just ignores him. We learn through Kristoff that Natalia was Princess Sherry's aide, the only daughter of the Luxembourg family, create a smaller version of the SAS which Norlan approved, leads the family, and takes care of Callus, especially after protecting him from a terrorist attack, and most importantly has crazy hair. Okay, he didn't say that last part, but that's just my observation. I mean, look at it. Anyways, later that night, the Seven Shining Stars celebrate their victory in their new hideout. They discuss how their new base will serve them well. Oda asked where Ash and Roze went, and Munamori said they took some time off. They immediately pan to Sakya sleeping in her undies.
Oh my.
we get two perspectives of what the characters are doing on their time off. Ash is working out and taking care of his pets, while Sakya sleeps erotically, only for Mei to later wake her up. And all I can say is,
Damn.
Ash goes out to get more pet food, and Sakya meets with Natalia in the cafe. Sakya shows off her necklace, and they discuss Sakura's location. Also, Mei had to leave to get some raspberry pie. This will become relevant later. Natalia was thinking of asking Callus to arrange a meeting with Sakura, but doesn't want to endanger his life. At this point, she doesn't know where Sakura is being held. When they talk about this, they also show Callus dubbing Norlon as a knight. And I gotta say, he looks kinda silly with that outfit on. Then Natalia asks Sakya how she's doing in general, and this leads to Sakya thinking about her Geass power and the man who gave it to her, Lelouch. At this point, we don't know that it's Lelouch, so it's more of a tease. Natalia then forces Sakya to work at the cafe as a fellow maid. She then leaves her because duty calls. Ash is then shown returning from the store with the pet food, and we see that just like in the original anime, despite the fact that a SAS-like area exists, racist Britannians won't acknowledge it. But Ash takes them out with ease while protecting Mei. Mei then returns to the cafe with Ash, and she said he saved her from weirdos. That's not how I would describe them. Anyways, Sakya freaks out seeing Ash without her disguise. He immediately blushes when seeing her. Natalia returns to the garment building to meet with Callus, who looks like Cannon and Schneisel had a child. He's so adorable. I hope nothing bad happens to him. Back at the cafe, Sakya explained to Mei, who is Ash, and she immediately apologized for bringing him here. Sakya then approaches Ash, who then asks her name. Mei says it's Raspberry.
Roll credits.
He then proceeded to ask her a bunch of questions, like what food she likes to eat and so forth. The man is trying to flirt with her, I think. Sakya notes how she's never seen him this talkative before, and he somehow hasn't figured out that she's Roze in disguise. After this, we go back to Natalia and Callus. Callus is too scared of the Japanese people to visit the Samari Cafe. To be honest, I don't blame him after what happened when he was traveling. So Natalia suggests making a cafe here, and Callus likes his idea. He really is so adorable. I just hope nothing bad happens to him. After his 10th cup of coffee, Ash continues to talk to Sakya. She then remembered a time when Ash talked about killing her father. Now he realized it was getting late, so Ash left. Sakya looks forward to his return. It is once again time for fan service because Catherine introduces herself to Sakura, bending her body in every way possible so we get every angle of her large bust. Apparently she has to watch Sakura and hates her. I get it, she's hot. Let's hope we get some actual characterization and development from Catherine in the future. The only good part here is that Sakura is doing a great job acting as Sakuya's body double. Next comes a scene with Stanley and Norlon, where he gives Norlon his progress on whatever he's working on. Stanley needs more time, and Norlon will give it to him. After finishing her shift, Sakya travels with Natalia. Natalia thinks back to when Sakya ran to her mansion during a rainy night. Then Mei and her assure Sakya that they will do what they can to save Sakura. The sun then goes down and oh no, Callus is dead!
Oh no! What happened? Oh no, how terrible! That's just awful! How terrible! Oh no!
Apparently Norlon poisoned him. Back at the Seven Shining Stars base, they reveal new nightmare frames they got from the Black Knights, including the Z Artemis, a nightmare frame with a float unit, so Roze can assist Ash on missions. Considering the Satump wall prevents nightmare frames with float units from working, all I gotta say is, Roze of the Recapture?
You got some explaining to do, partner.
Back at the van, Ash revealed that he fell in love with someone, then Roze realized he was talking about her. In light of Callus's death, the news reports that Sakura, acting as Sakya, is to become the 100th Empress of Neo-Britannia. This news naturally upsets Natalia, the Seven Shining Stars, and of course, Sakya herself. Sakya then thinks about when she got her Geass, and this is the moment you've been waiting for, because we see a flashback where Lelouch gave her the Geass power, echoing the same sentiment that Situ told him many years ago. Sakya realized he was right because the power is isolating her, and then the episode ends. And what a way to end it. People figured that Lelouch would be involved in the story, and now we have some information about it.
What if I went with L2?
If the return of Lelouch last week was amazing, wait until you see all the returning characters in this one. We don't even need to wait until the end of the episode because it starts by showing us C2 and Lelouch, aka L2, talking on some island. By the way, I will be referring to Lelouch as L2 for the rest of the video. C2 asked L2 why he gave Sakya a Geass power when they should be looking for Geass fragments, which is how Resurrection ended. She wonders if it was for fun or due to Sakya being related to Kaguya. For some reason, she didn't mention that L2 also happens to be her uncle. Anyways, L2 answers with the classic, "Who knows?" This made C2 smile. Starting the episode off with L2 teasing C2 is always a win. By the way, I've got plenty of videos analyzing this couple, links in the description. Moving on, C2 then follows up by asking if L2 won't interfere beyond this. L2 gives this vague answer by stating that they are beings who exist outside of the conventions of this world. So was that a yes or a no? I guess we'll find out later on. C2 agrees with his answer and the two walk off together just in time for the intro to start. Even though I heard that the visuals for the intro changes with the second film, so far that doesn't seem to be the case. And we also don't get another opening monologue, even though every other Code Geass anime has one before each episode and or film. After the exciting intro, we immediately go back to the Kaido block as we see the Damocles from the distance. We get some interesting info dump from the news reporter about Sakya's lineage. Her mother Sherry married Jugo before Charles became emperor, and she's his eldest daughter. But since this happened, Sherry forfeited her claim to the throne. The reporter then states that regardless, Sakya has a legit claim to the throne. Wait, what? How? That seems like contradictory information to me. But I'm sure they will explain the situation later on, because now it's time once again to pay the Black Knight's base a visit. At the base, they are also watching the news, and after the broadcast, start their Skype call with Cornelia. By the way, welcome back. It's great to see her again with the same voice actress, and as always, she looks stunning. Anyways, Cornelia claimed that because Sakya has blood ties to both Kaguya and Charles, this could be a problem for the UFN. Not sure why that would be the case, but okay. And even worse, they are going to have to delay the third liberation operation of the Hokkaido block. So Cornelia was gone for 3 months, and they don't explain where she went and why. I hope during that time she married Guilford. I mean, what else could it be? Then we get the big one, the reveal that pissed me off. Toto and Cornelia weren't present during the first 2 liberation operations to take back the Hokkaido block. I'll expand on why this pissed me off in a future video. For now, Cornelia then plays defense for the writers by saying she's not that good and the Satump wall is strong.
Stop the cap.
Then Cornelia claims that Norlon is a powerful foe, implying she couldn't take him in a fight. Not to be redundant, but
Stop the cap.
But if you thought things couldn't get any worse, Cornelia mentions that the enemy has a Damocles equipped with flayas.
Really? Again?
God, that's another can of worms I've already discussed and I will have to revisit again. The only positive part here is that Kuroto told Shiro that Sakura is acting as Sakuya's decoy, and this is how Cornelia learned about it as well. Cornelia approved the budget to send the 7 Shining Stars more nightmare frames. After the call, Cornelia comments on how her niece could be so reckless. We then pan to Sakura and Catherine, who are walking outside. The Neo-Britannians, while watching them, comment on several things, including the fact that this transfer of power happened so quickly, that Sakuya is half Japanese, and are thankful that Norlan is still running things. I have no idea how these people got to the Hokkaido block.
But that's a story for another time.
Sakura is also having doubts about the whole thing. We then go to the 7 Shining Stars base, where Sakuya tells Kuroto that maybe Sakura could implement policies to improve the lives of the Japanese people, but at least acknowledge that Norlan would probably prevent this from happening. There's also this idea that Sakura could make change from within. That sounds awfully familiar. Their conversation is interrupted by a squabble among the 7 Shining Stars. Some of them don't trust Sakuya because she's half Britannian and was absent for a while, but at least another member points out that her father Jugo tirelessly negotiated for their lives during the Far East incident, and Sherry made the SAS for the Hokkaido block after Neo-Britannia took over. This new information makes me wonder how long it took Neo-Britannia to take over the Hokkaido block. The prologue made it seem like it took weeks, but it sounds like it could have been months to a year. Anyways, we move right along to see what Kristoff Scissorman is doing in his Scissorman domain. Sounds like a great place to visit, right? Except it's not, because Kristoff is torturing the man who let the prisoners break free in episode 2. Remember that Sakuya used Geass on him, and that's why he has no idea what happened. Again, this sounds awfully familiar. One of his men interrupts the interrogation, but Kristoff instructs him to leave him be, and Divok will handle taking out the remnants of the resistant forces, which is what we see next. In the previous episode, the Ironberg members destroyed their bases, and now Divok is here to finish them off. Divok's men force them to flee, but they don't finish them off for some reason. Then we go back to Sakuya, who's talking to Natalia via Skype. Sakuya is looking at her iPad and reading an article about Sakura. Natalia points out that the government is in shambles following Callus's death. Also, that plush is a reference to either Cheesegoon or the plushies from Genesis RE Code. Not relevant, but wanted to point that out. Sakuya assures Natalia that she's fine, and the conversation ends. Just in time too, because Ash arrives to get Sakuya since the meeting's about to start. Sakuya remembers Ash confessing his love for her while traveling to the meeting. During the meeting, we learned that Tomi and Iwamoto escaped but lost a significant amount of their forces. Then Roze explains to everyone why Sakura, who's disguised as Sakuya, is not working against them. Minus the whole disguise part. She didn't mention that at all. Anyways, she says that Sakura was held in the same prison as Kuroto. He then gives her a signal to keep going, so Roze does. Roze lies a little by showing an image of Catherine taking Sakura away, but doesn't mention her connection to these events. Then she brings up that Norlan killed Callus since dying of a heart failure at 10 isn't a natural occurrence.
Obviously.
So Sakura was brought to replace Callus as another puppet for Norlan to control. This is how Sakuya convinced everyone that Sakura is not their enemy, but rather Norlan. During this, we get a nice look at Yuko's assets, and all I can think every time I see her is,
but a prostitute is someone who would love you no matter who you are, what you look like.
Anyways, now that everyone is in agreement, Roze mentions that a new convoy of equipment is on its way. Back at the Neo-Britannian government office, the funeral for Callus occurs. Only Natalia is visibly crying. It's like no one cares, which makes sense. After this, Natalia tells May in the car that she didn't fulfill her promise to Callus. She can't accept he died at 10, and I would go further and suggest that no one should, since that's unnatural. We go back to the Seven Shining Stars base where the members await the ship, except for Haruka because she's doing target practice to improve her skills as a Nightmare Frame pilot. Oda is concerned that Haruka is training so she can be their ace pilot, but hopes that he or Kuroto will end up piloting it. We learned that Kuroto was a former member of the JLF with an incredible military record. Okay. The submarine arrives with the new Nightmare Frames, but then Second Lieutenant Minato Sakai, yes, she is a woman, thanks Wiki, gets off the sub first, and then Nina follows her, making this now the 6th legacy character to return in Roze of the Recapture, and I gotta say, she looks pretty good. Anyways, Nina presents the new version of the Flea Eliminator that no longer has the same rigid requirements to activate that the first one had. Ash assures Roze that he can still work with the new activation conditions. Nina then tells everyone that she created the Fleas, explaining to the audience, again, who didn't get the first time, that she didn't understand the ramifications of it until it was used, and she still lives with the guilt of killing millions of people, so she urges everyone to help her stop the Fleas. Then later on, Roze shows Nina to her room. She asks him why a Britannian would be helping the Japanese people. This question makes no sense given the current political climate, but Roze answers anyways, saying that there is someone she wants to protect. She even admits that this is cliche. Roze instructs Nina to stay in her room to avoid other potential problems.
But that doesn't make any sense.
Then we get to another meeting between Kuroto, Iwamoto, and Tomi. Kuroto wants to work together, but the other two don't. They see this at worst a power grab, and at best a situation where they will still owe Kuroto for his help.
You idiots!
Tomi and Iwamoto have a counter offer that all three will lead the forces together, which isn't a terrible idea, but Kuroto doesn't like it. Having too many leaders will slow things down, which is a fair point. Then Roze antagonizes Iwamoto and Tomi for their stupidity and proposes an alliance.
Roll credits.
Her idea is for both factions to work under Kuroto, but they will lead their own forces during various operations. This idea is so simple that it's quite sad they needed someone new like Roze to suggest it, when it should have been obvious from the beginning. No offense, but this is a case of everyone being stupid, not Sakya being smart. Back at the Neo-Britannian government office, Divik is back from filming an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! To inform Norlon that he didn't kill the fleeing terrorist. Also, Dan Green, the original voice of Yugi and Atem, is voicing Norlon, so that joke had multiple layers.
Yeah, we get the wordplay.
Since Divok held his end of the deal, Norlon allows him to do what he wants. Still not sure why they had to let the terrorists go, but who cares? It's time for the best part of this episode, because Nara has once again graced us with her lovely presence. Her smile is immaculate, as is the rest of her. Wait. Ow! Of course, what I meant to say was she is beautiful, but clearly inferior to Cecile. Just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you very much.
Anyways, Nara is looking at photos of herself as a child. The photos have other children in them, and we will learn about their identities later on, but I won't spoil that for you. Just like Catherine, Norlon messages Nara for her assistance. She's also not pleased. At the Seven Shining Stars base, Roze notes how Haruka has a high divisor point, but needs a better Nightmare Frame to utilize her abilities. Kuroto informs Roze that Iwamoto and Tomi agree to the alliance. Later on, Kuroto informs Haruka that she will be the pilot for the Kisetsu. Roze justifies this because after reviewing her combat data, she determined that Haruka is able to make good decisions on the battlefield, has impressive instincts, not better than Ash of course, but still really good, and using a better Nightmare Frame will allow her to unlock her latent abilities. She throws the keys to the Kisetsu to Haruka. Then Haruka acts like a tsundere. I don't know. This amazing moment is interrupted because Divik is live to announce that the Damocles is going to attack the Sapporo ghetto, even though the resistance groups aren't stationed there. They have
24 hours to live.
Divik launches the Damocles to the sound of epic music in the background. Roze calms everyone down by pointing out that they have the new Flea Eliminator and will take down the Damocles. And then, mercifully, this episode ends. I didn't like this one, and I'll explain why in a future video.
Now!
So since this episode has a ton of Nara scenes, I found a hiding place that will allow me to safely gush over her. Hopefully Cecile doesn't find me here. Also, since this series is unapologetically copying the original anime, I've created this meter that'll track every time that happens in this episode. Okay, it looks like the coast is clear, so let's get started. And I wasn't kidding when saying that Nara appears a lot in this episode, because right away we begin with Divek calling her using a private line. Private line sounds awfully familiar. He apologizes since she should be leading this operation and not him. And based on his future performance, he's 100% right. Anyways, Nara, who looks amazing as always, agrees to focus on dealing with the 7 Shining Stars ground forces. Also, this conversation reminds me of the one between Cornelia and Dalton. Before ending the call, Divek tells Nara that he'll handle exterminating the 11s. Nara then questions the act of killing innocent civilians. I like this character, as you know, but that level of ignorance is hard to accept considering the situation. Back at the 7 Shining Stars base, Roze reveals the plans of the enemies that she got courtesy of her inside collaborators. That's code word for using Geass on them. And that also reminds me of something. Anyways, they formulate this plan based on the data. Ash immediately volunteers to find Nara because she's strong and maybe for another reason. But Roze shuts that down because she needs him to do something more important, which relates to using the Flea Eliminator. Then she gives No Offense a mid-motivational speech and the intro begins. After that colorful intro that still doesn't look any different from before, we go back to the van, and it looks like they are reusing old animation from earlier episodes minus some minor changes. Anything to save money, I guess. Roze talks to Nina about the Fleas, and here we get an answer to something you've all been wondering. How in the blue hell did Neo Britannia acquire Flea warheads? And the answer, drum roll please. Fleas are difficult to make, so Schneisel took all the ones they made at the time, but after reviewing the records, there were some he didn't take. Probably because they were made later on, or he messed up. I hope it's not the latter. Anyways, Neo Britannia acquired those few Fleas left over, which Nina speculates can't be more than 3. By the way, I know Nara is my favorite, but Sakai looks amazing here. God, it's so hard to focus on this terrible plot sometimes, which is never a bad thing. Roze then asks Sakai to tell I'm Kuroto, not Toto, to inform him that everything is going as planned. Then Roze and Ash stop because of the real threat of the series, writer's block. I mean roadblocks. Thanks to her Geass, the guards let her pass, and Ash accepts the explanation that this person is another collaborator. Back at the Neo Britannian government officer front shrine,
Say that 3 times fast.
Sakura tries to convince Norlon to not go through with using the Fleas on the Sapro ghetto. Knowing that Norlon would be hard to convince, she uses her greatest weapon, her large bust. But Norlon is a Sigma male, so these distractions don't work on him. Jokes aside, why would ruining his reputation among the international community bother Norlon? Sakura, he invaded the Hokkaido block with the Damocles and killed the Black Knight representatives. To quote someone smarter than me,
not a great plan.
Sakura realized that she really is just a puppet emperor. Wasn't that
obvious?
We go back to the Damocles as it travels to the Sapro ghetto. Divik is enjoying sitting on the throne that once belonged to Schneisel. They detect the 7 Shining Stars ground units, and he won't believe what he does next. He opens the Blaze luminous shields to allow his nightmare frames to bombard the ground forces. Yoko finally does something useful besides the usual and forms all the ground units of Divik's stupidity, so the 7 shining stars on the ground are able to fire missiles through the opening of the blade's luminous shields. Divik even seemed annoyed and surprised here. I can't make this up. Nara then launches from the airships just like Cornelia and the other Britannian forces did in the past. The Queen immediately moves in, dealing damage with the 2 machine guns on her Nightmare Frame's arms and the impressive arm blades. Divik then has the Damocles resume its course, which will take until sunset to reach the Sapro Ghetto. But then something familiar happens. The 7 shining stars start their ground operation from the sky using VTOLs to carry the Nightmare Frames, which is exactly what Lelouch did in turn 6 to attack Britannia's airships in order to capture Nunnally. Also, we see Roze traveling in the Z Artemis, which has a fortress mode that looks oddly similar to the Shinkiro. Roze reveals another new innovation. The Z Artemis has countermeasures for the Blade's luminous shields. I assume Lloyd or Rakshata created it. It would have been nice to have seen this on screen, but whatever. It is more important to see Sakya in her undies as much as possible. Anyways, using this technology, Roze, along with the other Nightmare Frames, are able to land on the Damocles, which mirrors how Lelouch got through the shields. Except he got in from an opening Schneizel created, used the Shinkiro to keep it open, and they lost 1 unit in the process. Divik is not happy, just like Schneizel wasn't when Lelouch got through and Suzaku did some damage. Roze heads out to take control of the Damocles, while the remaining forces begin to plant bombs on each of the float units. Haruka shows her results from doing so much yoga. I wonder if Colin is in her class. Back on the ground, Nara obliterates Iwamoto's forces. Her beauty and combat abilities are unmatched on the battlefield. Also, she is correct in pointing out that Iwamoto is a dumbass. To be fair, we already knew that from the last episode. Seriously, these close-ups of Nara are amazing. Just when things look bad for the 7 shining stars, Oda is here to save the day. At least he seems more competent. Then the other 7 shining stars join in on the ambush of the Neo-Britannian forces. This is followed by the 7 shining stars detonating mines that they planted on the battlefield. Kuroto, not Toto, is doing a good job so far. Even Nara is impressed with their tactics. I noticed that most of the commercial breaks occur after seeing a close-up of Nara's face. And you know what? I'm not even mad about that. It's probably the best part of the whole episode. After the break, we learn that the first and the third squads have set up the bombs, but the second squad was wiped out and the fourth squad is still setting up. Once the fourth squad is done, the big mofo himself, Divik, appears in his massive Nightmare Frame and is quick to call the Japanese people monkeys. How very Britannian of him. Man, that Nightmare Frame looks awesome. Tomi prepares to fight Divok, while Roze and the Damocles operators that she Geassed work on taking over the Damocles. She learned that they have 2 Fleas. They are labeled 2 and 4, which means that Flea number 3 hasn't been accounted for. That'll come up later. Anyways, Norlon has a contingency plan here where his men killed anyone who disobeyed any order. So there goes Rose's grand plan. Also, Roze used Geass on people to control the Damocles, which is what Lelouch did, so I guess she didn't want to risk using her Geass on the soldiers who stormed the control room. Back on the Damocles itself, Divik easily overpowers Tomi and removes the bombs. Before he can finish off Tomi, Haruka appears cutting off the barrel of his gun. Divik comments on the Japanese incompetence with the racial slur, which reminds me of what Jeremiah said before fighting Colin. We also are about to see Nightmare Frames fight on the Damocles, like what Suzaku and Gino did, or Colin and Suzaku. While Haruka fights Divik, they use the angles that we saw with Colin. Haruka kicks his ass, forcing Divik to flee back to the Damocles to fire the Flea. Roze tells Haruka to not pursue, and then we learn from Kuroto, not Toto, that since his forces are pulling away, the Damocles is about to fire the Flea. You think? Divik, like a dumbass, doesn't instruct his forces to remove the other bombs on the Damocles, choosing to instead go back to the Damocles Control Center. During that time, I'm Kuroto, not Toto, has the 2nd and 4th squads arm the bombs. After everyone gets away from the Damocles, avoiding the Blaze luminous shields, they detonate those bombs. Divik isn't happy about this, nor wonders why there's blood in the room. All he cares about is firing the Flea, even if they won't achieve the maximum effect in using it. The Flea is fired, which freaks out Nina, but don't worry, Ash is here to use the Flea Eliminator, just like how Zaku did, only this time it requires less skill thanks to Nina's improvements. Roze then goes back to Nina to get another Flea Eliminator, so it looks like they can just mass produce these now. Neat. Divok prepares to fire the next Flea, which I'm Kuroto, not Toto, states will cause a rate of damage over 70%.
That's not good.
I'm Kuroto, not Toto, then redeploys his units to different areas. Haruka goes to support the ground units, which leaves good old Tomi, who decided to sacrifice his life to take out the 4th Damocles float unit to prevent Divok from launching the Fleas. I speak for everyone when I say,
Who cares?
The man did one useful thing before he died. We also learned during this that since all the energy was directed to allowing the Damocles to fly, they couldn't use the Blaze luminous shields. This allowed Roze and the 7 shining stars to get away earlier. At least I think that's what happened. Divok realized he messed up, and to avoid Norlan's wrath, he proceeded with Plan B. Meanwhile, Roze informs I'm Kuroto, not Toto, that they will be destroying the Damocles instead of taking it over. Also, we get an epic scene where Nina gives her another Flea Eliminator. To deal with Nara, I'm Kuroto, not Toto, sends an Oda squad who don't last long against her. But she at least complemented their skills. As Nara takes out Oda's squad, Ash shows up to take her on, so Ash gets his wish anyways. Nara during the battle realized that Ash is the pilot of the Z Apollo. Back at the government office, Kristoff calls Norlan an idiot and proceeds to go out and assist Nara and Divok. Kristoff is based as hell in this episode. The battle between Ash and Nara continues, and thankfully she survived his death move and now knows for sure that Ash is indeed the pilot. She then learns that the 7 shining stars are ambushing their forces using nightmare frames on VTOLs. Nara then orders a retreat. Divok can't accept this, but Nara is right. The mission failed since the Damocles can't fire Fleas. Then Kristoff calls Nara, and her expression during this scene is beautiful. Just amazing. Divok then rage quits by taking his damaged nightmare frame and the Flea on a hovercraft, speeding away to the Sapporo ghetto. He decides to do his Andros impersonation.
If I go down, I'm taking you with me.
To stop Divok, Ash and Roze combined. No, not like that. At least not yet. Rather, their nightmare frames combine, like in Power Rangers or Oz of the Reflection, to form the Ortigia. This makes, Coom in her pants. Besides Nara, this was the best part of the episode. With its insane speed, Ash and Roze easily catch up to Divok, prevent his flare from detonating, and kill him in the process. Everything is going well until Kristoff appears out of the blue and uses the last Flea on the Damocles, causing it to start to fall on everyone. Makes you wonder why they didn't use a ship like that to fire the Fleas to begin with. Kristoff is right, Norlan really is a dumbass. Nara graces us with her beauty one last time in this episode by speculating that they had planned on discarding the Damocles from the start, which makes everything essentially pointless. Oh, you found me. And I suppose you heard everything I said, huh? Well, listen, let me explain. Ow! 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 Okay, I get it. Let me be clear, okay, that even though I complimented Nara's beauty and her nightmare frame skills several times in this episode, Cecile is obviously superior in both of those departments. Well, I don't know about that last one. Ow! I was just kidding! Okay, are we good? Anyways, the Damocles continues to fall, which terrifies everyone, and the episode ends on an interesting cliffhanger. is Roze overly copying the original anime, they are even copying their own episodes, because episode 6 copies the same format and moments from episode 3. I will be pointing this out during the video, as well as the Roze recapturing meter. Anyways, everyone was curious to learn how they were going to resolve the Damocles falling from the last episode. Well, we get that answer in the first few minutes of the episode. Roze is able to take control of the Damocles long enough to guide it to a safe location. Then she helps Haruka provide cover, allowing everyone to escape. Everyone lived, so it's intro time. Finally, something new happens in this one where they show the Artigia instead of the Artemis. After the fun intro, Kristoff comments that the whole thing was a waste of time.
That's just a fact.
Nara leaves first, then Kristoff leaves after telling Norlon that he's going to test his new toy on the soldiers who Sokka used Geass on in the previous episode. Then we go to the 7 Shining Star base, where everyone celebrates their success, giving the nameless mercenaries most of the credit. Oda learns, just like in episode 3, that Roze and Ash are taking some time off. But first, they see Nina off as she returns back to the Black Knight's base. Sakai informs Nina that she will remain at the 7 Shining Stars base to act as a liaison for the Black Knights. Back at the government office front shrine, Sakura uses reverse psychology to get Catherine to help the Japanese. During this, Catherine acts like how Alicia did with Nunnally when Nunnally was the Viceroy of Japan. They even reused some of the lines.
Please don't try to assert yourself, despite her feeble attempts to assert herself.
Anyways, Catherine gets pissed and asks Walter to protect Sakura during this time. After this, Roze is shown riding in the same car with Kuroto. Despite Kuroto reminding Roze that it's the anniversary of Jugo's death, Roze doesn't want to visit the grave. We also get a flashback showing Jugo and Sherry. Kuroto explained that Jugo was kind to everyone, regardless if they were Britannian or Japanese. And after Sherry died of some illness, Jugo joined her later on when a Neo-Britannian officer killed him. This makes Roze immediately remember what Ash told her earlier. Anyways, Kuroto drops off Roze at the Samari Cafe and agrees to move both Sherry and Jugo's graves together once this is done. At the Black Knight's base, Shiro explained that Sakai doesn't know Rose's true identity because she couldn't carry out her duties with that info due to her nature. Then they discuss moving forward with another peace delegation. This could only happen thanks to the 7 Shining Stars taking down the Damocles. Just like in episode 3, the Black Knight meeting ends by showing us Sakya, who has once again removed her Roze disguise, allowing us to see her sleep practically naked. After waking up, she heads downstairs and is surprised by the amount of customers at the cafe. Roze then volunteers to get groceries, but May insists that she wears the maid outfit. While going out of the cafe to get groceries, she runs into Ash and the two go for a walk. Just like in episode 3, we get more development between Ash and Sakuya. In the middle of the conversation, Ash sees Nara and decides to leave Sakya to talk to her. Wait, I didn't say anything, but she does look great though. Ow! Before heading over to Nara, Sakya hands him a Samari souvenir, which is actually a device to allow her to listen in on this conversation. In the car, Ash and Nara point guns at each other and start talking while Sakya listens in. Ash confirms it has been 2 years since they saw each other. We will get back to that conversation later because now we have to go back to the government office because Natalia meets up with Walter, which what a coinky dink. They also haven't seen each other for over 2 years. We learn that both of their families took care of Sherry after she moved here. Walter brings Natalia to Sakura. The two discuss many things, including Sakya, who Natalia describes as a cat. They also discuss the Saz, and Sakura hopes to create more of those. The Saz was also mentioned, so back at the car, the conversation continues. Nara wants to know why Ash didn't contact her and betrayed everyone. Ash just deflects, wanting to know why she works for Norlon. Nara just says, you know the reason, but will tell us the reason later on. Nara is so determined to not hurt Ash that she'll help him relocate so they don't have to fight anymore. Ash, of course, refuses. Nara looks amazing in that lighting. It really captures the gold in her eyes and the redness in her hair. Ow! totally worth it. During this, Sakia does her Captain Marvel impersonation and steals someone's motorcycle to regain the signal. Her riding on the motorcycle reminded me of C2 doing that in stage 14, mostly because both characters wore a unique outfit and had pigtails. Back at the car, Nara tells Ash that Jugo's death wasn't his fault. Ash says it's not about erasing his sins, but rather honoring a vow he made. This time, Nara answers Ash's question on why she joined Norlon. Ready for this? Drum roll, please. Due to the rest of the world's discrimination against the Britannians, she chose to work with Norlon to make sure that the children from the Lavender House, the place she and Ash grew up in, have a safe place to live. There are issues with that, but that's a video for another time. Ash lets Nara know that she'll have to fight him and that Norlon won't keep his promises. He reminded her that Norlon adopted him and made him do horrible things. Nara then says she knows what his life with Norlon was like, and the two end up at an impasse, so Ash jumps out of the car. Nara looked amazing during the final part of that conversation. Truly perfect. Wait, but not as good as Cecile. Ha! I got you there. Ow! Anyways, Sakia is surprised to learn all of this information. Then, just like in episode 3, Roze and Ash talk about how their day went. Both characters again don't discuss anything too personal. This time Ash says even less things, and all Roze can do is think about what she learned about him earlier that day. Remember earlier when Kristoff said he was going to interrogate the soldiers? Well, we finally see that. Through using the destroyed data on Geass, which could only have come from a few places, he was able to get the soldiers to admit he received orders to help the Japanese. I think that the Geass information must have been from Bartley. If so, this is now the second time they had to use that in a storyline. Then Kristoff sends in some random guy who reenacts the Phantom and stabs the soldier's eyes. This removes the Geass effect, allowing the soldier to reveal that a blonde person gave him the command. He dies shortly afterwards, and the person who killed him was none other than Arnold. So now we have this show's version of Jeremiah.
So I guess this proves I was right all along.
Then we go to the royal bath where Sakura is showing everyone the goods. In the original anime, Colin has a scene like this in stage 3, but you can only get a complete picture, if you know what I mean, with the Blu-ray release. I wonder if the same will be true for this. Then after taking the bath while putting on her robes, Walter surprises her. He claims that she's not a puppet princess, but actually Sakura something. I'm not even going to try to say her last name.
Sakura Haruyanagi no Miya.
Boy. That escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
This scene is obviously referencing Suzaku and Colin's encounter on Kamina Island, because Suzaku sees Colin naked, pins her down, and learns the truth. Walter sees Sakura partially naked, pins her against the wall, and reveals her lies. So there are some nice differences, but the general concept is the same. After the ending credits, we see the preview for the next episode/film. It starts with a scene of the Lavender House, including a young Nara and Ash. There's also this cute kid who smiles at Ash. Then a nun uses bed sheets to transition to the next scene, where Ash is walking out of the mansion after killing everyone in it. Norlon is shown smiling, and we see Ash walking further down the road after dropping the knife. Wow, that was intense. Episode 7 starts with the resolution of that bath scene. It turns out that Walter was Sherry's knight, and he wants to help Sakura protect Sakuya, just like Jerry, who wanted to protect Marion, or Guilford, who wanted to protect Cornelia. So the two agreed to work together, even though he gave off grapey vibes. After moving his hand from Sakura's face, she gives him this "what the hell was that" look. So the situation followed that scene from the original anime. Next we follow up another plot point from last episode. Sakuya learned new things about Ash, so she went to the Lavender House to learn more. Apparently her background check didn't reveal anything. How convenient. At the Lavender House, she commanded the nun to tell her everything about Ash. Intro time. After that colorful intro, we see Ash trading with Munamori, Oda, and Haruka. We go back to the Lavender House, where the nun revealed Ash's past. This part was confusing, so I'm going to do my best to break this down. Ash and his younger brother Nicole were war orphans. Nicole was sickly, and Ash was a lively boy. Now we move forward 3 years later. Norlon adopts both boys as part of the Vogue scheme, where wealthy adults took in orphans. Before leaving, Ash and Nicole say goodbye to Ruby. Ruby, 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 Ruby! They promise to reunite one day. They're all so adorable. I hope nothing bad happens to them. Also, we can see that everyone is visibly 3 years older now, especially Nara. Then the boys arrive at Norlon's mansion. Somehow, at the mansion, Ash promises to do whatever it takes so Nicole can stay despite his illness. Apparently, Norlon hates weak people, just like Charles. Also, once again, we have a situation where there's a sickly younger sibling, and the older one does whatever they can to protect them. Then we go back to the training scene. So Ash defeats Haruka, but not without the show showing us those lovely Ash shots. Ash explained why he lost. Then the episode goes back to the flashback where we see Ash training with Kristoff. Kristoff told Ash the same piece of information. This reminded me of Zaku's training and encounter with Toto. During this scene, Ash's hair is visibly longer, so some time has passed, but I assume it hasn't been a year since his adoption. Next, we move on to the Nightmare Frame training, where Ash fights a young Arnold, who is convinced he will have glory on the battlefield. Oh, don't worry, you will. During the training, Ash easily defeats Arnold, and then we see Bismarck watching. He disapproves of Ash's fighting style. Of course, this means that Norlon was a former member of the Knights of the Round. Later on, Norlon teaches Ash an important lesson. We hear his words while seeing Ash kill people in a mansion. Norlon's lesson in all of this was that Ash has to kill his heart and he won't feel anything. That's the key to becoming a powerful assassin. The nun later explained that Ash killed people who Norlon found to be problematic. Then years pass, probably 3 to 4. Ash becomes the Knight of 13. Then more time passes, and now I believe we are at Koa Year 3. Ash and Nicole have a depressing conversation which is interrupted by another assassination mission. On this one, they run into Ruby. Ruby, 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 Ruby! Who Ash can't kill, but Nicole does. The mission ended up as a failure. Ash and Nicole later joined the other Einberg members to talk about it. Ash takes the blame, but then Nicole feels bad and takes the blame for him. After stating if he wasn't around, Ash would be better off, Norlon killed him. Ash loses it, but Kristoff held him down. Nara decides to imprison him instead of killing him. Her character was ruined in this episode, so no more compliments for a while.
What's the matter with you?
Cecile, by comparison, is much smarter, prettier, and kinder. Oh damn. You know what? There's something that needs my attention, so I'm gonna take a quick break from this recap. I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. Ash ends up at the same jail as Emperor Jugo and is placed in the cell directly in front of him. Then we have to pan to this annoying part where Sakura pissed off Catherine, then talks to Walter about protecting Sakuya.
Boring.
Then Kristoff runs into Nara, asks about Ash, and threatens to use unpleasant means to get what he wants. He also called out her hypocrisy, deservingly so, since unlike her, Cecile wouldn't be this naive. She's well aware of her actions, and I respect that. Oh damn, looks like it's time for round 2. Again, I'll be right back, I got something more important to attend to. Okay, let's continue. Back at the flashback, Jugo and Ash became friends. I think this might be Koa year 6 or 7. Since Norlon has the Okaido block, Ash looks older, and Jugo is still alive. Later on, the guard informs Jugo of his upcoming execution. We will call him Evil Guard. Killing Jugo will allow Callus to take over. Over the next few days, weeks, months, or who knows how long it was, Ash told Jugo about his past. Jugo gives him some life advice. The two joke about Ash marrying Sakuya. Then the guard informs Jugo that due to Kuroto's rebellion, his execution is moved to tomorrow. The three agree to escape together. During the escape, Ash promises to protect Sakuya. Unfortunately, the evil guard was waiting for them. Since Norlon had anticipated this, he killed the good guard. Ash gets away at Jugo's request, using Zaku's bullet dodging perk. Then everyone shoots Jugo, and the evil guard finishes him off. This reminded me of the guards that failed to kill Colin or Toto. Ash returns to the Lavender House and tells the nun everything. This man is suffering the same kind of trauma as Zaku, who also killed someone. But Zaku actually killed his father. That's the major distinction. This revelation also explained why everyone acted surprised to see Ash alive, only it made more sense in the original anime with Lelouch. After learning all of this, Sakuya reflects on her horrible actions. We see another flashback which revealed the exact command she gave to Ash, which was, drum roll please. Protect me as you would protect the person most important to you. Back at the present, unfortunately for Sakuya, she runs into Kristoff's trap. Thanks to his Magneto helmet, she can't use Geass on him, which led to her capture. It's kinda similar to when Britannia captured Lelouch in turn 17, but the better comparison is how both Lelouch and Sakuya's reckless use of Geass almost led to their downfalls. Anyways, Natalia is captured. Arnold and Catherine attack the Seven Shining Stars base with that cringe nightmare frame dancing. Also, Arnold, like Jeremiah, is a cyborg with a brand new nightmare frame. And the episode ends with Sakuya in a straitjacket, just like her uncle. Oh god, let's get this over with. At least Nara isn't in this episode.
You don't deserve to live.
So I don't have to worry about pissing off Cecile. No reason to do that though, because she's perfect. Oh, sorry, we can't do that on videos anymore. It's freaking people out. Yeah, sorry about that. Anyways, the episode starts with Arnold talking to Norlon. Kristoff informs Norlon that he learned that Ash and the Geass user were working with the terrorists. This intel came from the guinea pigs. Then Catherine joins in with her bouncing breasts. By the way, to really emphasize just how bad the fan service was in this episode, I'm going to keep a separate sin counter for each instance of it starting right now.
I can't believe I've been personally summoned by Lord Norling. Who even are you?
After her cringe flirting, Kristoff orders both to wipe out the terrorist. Then he goes to deal with Sakya, who's hanging around.
Yeah, we get the wordplay.
She's in a humiliating position as a prisoner, just like Colin was, only worse. And just like Lelouch and Colin, Sakya is also in a straitjacket. After that crappy intro, the fight between Neo Britannia and the Seven Shining Stars begins. Arnold appears looking for Ash, just like Jeremiah was looking for Zero. Karoto orders Ash to assist his forces when learning he doesn't know about Roze's whereabouts. Then Ash runs into Arnold and is curious how the fucker's still alive, just like Lelouch did for Jeremiah. Arnold explains he's a robot and they start fighting. Then we go to Catherine and Haruka, who also start fighting. Haruka's nightmare frame moves give Catherine a mini orgasm, which is why she thinks this fight is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, wow. You'll eat those words.
Then comes the cringe nightmare frame dancing. Back at the sex dungeon, Kristoff explains how Sakya's Geass works.
There seem to be a wide variety of Geass abilities.
And that they cancelled her Geass ability. They even dragged Bartley's dead fat ass in here.
You really freed people from my Geass?
Since his research is responsible for this.
What exactly do you intend to do with me?
After explaining his dumb plan to make Geass, Norlon joins the call to talk with Sakya back on the battlefield. Arnold reveals how his new upgrades prevents Ash's instant kill move. Then Haruka and Catherine fight some more, only now Catherine starts taunting her since Haruka is turning out to be a disappointment. Who knew?
Are all these wild swings supposed to be attacks?
Even Karoto notes how she won't last long.
Haruka won't last long.
And he can't send her reinforcements because they're not doing well either. Back to Arnold's fight with Ash. It's not going well for Ash, and Arnold brings up that he was tricked by his fake brother, then reminds him that Norlon killed his real brother. This causes the Geass command to activate on Ash, just like how it did for Suzaku or Lelouch. Back at the sex dungeon, Sakya doesn't answer Norlon, so he leaves her to Kristoff. What an awesome villain.
I've come across a lot of psychos, but none as fucking boring as you. You are a boring F*** cunt.
Power of Geass. Can it be done?
Why?
Do with her as you wish. We are done here.
Understood. Bring the prisoners in.
Ash starts freaking out and due to the Geass falls over the ledge with his nightmare frame. Then Arnold finds him, removes him from his nightmare frame and reveals his Geass canceller, which he plans to use on Ash so he will remember how his brother died before Arnold kills him. Back at the sex dungeon, the prisoners are brought to Sakya so she'll use her Geass on them. Then back at the battlefield, getting whiplash yet? Anyways, Arnold uses his canceller on Ash. Ash relives everything and thanks to Isao gets away from Arnold. Shirley went through a similar experience as Ash in this episode. After Jerry used his canceller on her, she immediately went to deal with everything she learned. Then we cut back to Haruka and Catherine. At this point, it's not going well for Haruka since Catherine actually knows what she's doing.
Keeps darting in and out of range.
But Haruka gets one nice blow on her using a Blaze Luminous type weapon. Catherine then decides to take on Haruka with no weapons.
Looks like things got a little interesting. Well, in that case, is this supposed to be some kind of joke?
things look bad for Oda's squad, but then Iwamoto with the Eastern Dawn Brigade comes to save them. This is kinda like when the Four Holy Swords arrived at Narita. Then Kuroto gets a message concerning where Roze is being held by Scissorman. I think Ash got the same message because he heads over to find Roze.
The heck is this?
It's from an anonymous sender.
Sir Scissorman has a new prisoner, the younger nameless mercenary brother.
It turns out that Stanley sent his message because he finds the whole Geass thing to be nonsense. I kinda agree. On his way, Ash thinks about everything that has happened to him. Back at the sex dungeon, Sakuya refuses to use her Geass on some prisoners, so Kristoff killed him, then threatened to bring someone close to her. But then Ash arrives, so Kristoff has to go on the defense. Despite the reinforcements, things are still not going well for the 7 Shining Stars. They are facing heavy casualties and equipment issues.
Oda and Munamori squad, head to Point Alpha. And North Wolf Army, start moving to Point Bravo.
Back to the fight between Haruka and Catherine. Catherine is now bored with her fight against Haruka. It's clear that she's a better pilot. Also, Haruka gets the same nightmare frame view angles as Colin did. Just more sad attempts to make this character like her.
So boring. I feel like I could take a nap right now. I told you. You're gonna eat those words!
Back at the sex dungeon, Ash arrives and destroys the place. He then makes it to Sakuya's chamber where Kristoff is waiting for him.
It's Ash.
Ash defeats Kristoff despite his trash talking and cheap tactics.
That young lady tricked you and was posing as your brother right by your side like she didn't have a care in the world.
Let's go back to Catherine versus Haruka. Before Tits defeats Ass, Oda and Munamori save Haruka. But before Catherine can attack them, bombs go off.
I did have fun. You let my guard down, boys.
Iwamoto's men use kamikaze attacks to take out the Neo-Britannian forces, allowing the 7 Shining Stars to escape. Not sure how any of that actually worked out though. Iwamoto sacrificed his life as well. Who gives a shit? Also, this is a terrible copy from what happened in Akito the Exiled OVA 1. Technically, the end of Ash's fight with Kristoff happens at this point, but I already discussed it earlier, so instead we get to the end where Ash lowers Sakuya down.
I used an unnatural power. I deceived you.
Sakuya asked Ash if he's free from her Geass. He says yes. Then Sakuya apologizes for everything, then begs Ash to help her out, and then after saving Sakura, he can do whatever he wants to her.
Very poor choice of words.
Ash pulls out his gun, points it at Sakuya's head, and then the episode mercifully ends. There's no sugarcoating it. This episode was horrible.
That was the worst thing I have ever seen, and I was in Nam.
What the heck did I just watch? I don't know if I should be happy or annoyed. Anyways, it starts at the Neo-Britannian government office front shrine. Sakura is excited that the Japanese Relief Act is moving forward. Even a salty Walter likes the idea. Then we go back to the sex dungeon where episode 8 left off. Ash recalls when Roze looked like Nicole thanks to Sakuya's Geass. This is how Lelouch's Geass worked on Guilford. Thanks for clarifying that. These thoughts anger Ash and he shoots the floor, nearly hitting Sakuya. He is dismayed that she used him, so he leaves in his nightmare frame. Scissorman then lifts up Sakuya using the harness so the fan service may continue. Yet, after showing the new test subjects, none of which were Natalia by the way, he releases her from the harness. It was quite a fall, and Sakuya is lucky that she didn't injure anything. Also, why was the harness used at all? Then he gives her an ultimatum. Come to my office and Geass these detainees, or they die. So good choices all around. before we get the exciting conclusion to this, it's intro time. After the intro, Sakya enters Scissorman's office, then provides a counter offer. Even though he was intrigued by it, he figured out she was stalling, so he killed a detainee. So Sakya gives in. Also, when she first entered the room, she looked like Lelouch from that famous scene in Lelouch of the Resurrection, minus her massive tits. Anyways, before Sakya uses her Geass, Ash smashes his way in with the Z Apollo. This knocks off Scissorman's anti-Geass helmet, so Sakya readies her Geass. Scissorman then screams, so Sakya can't finish the command, then kills himself. Well, rest in peace to that moron. Then Ash emerges from his nightmare frame and agrees to assist Sakya to honor his vow to Jugo, and trust Jugo that Sakya is a good person. Before we move on, if you're finding the video informative or entertaining, then make sure to like the video and subscribe to the official My Media Chops channel. I cover all things Code Geass, including Roze at Recapture, and this series is going to end next month, so eventually I will cover other awesome anime similar to Code Geass. But to make this occur, I'm going to need your assistance. Since you got through that, here's a funny edit of Sakya in the straitjacket. Anyways, Ash and Sakya travel to the Seven Shining Stars hideout. Ash tells Sakya to continue acting like Roze, at least for now, and she's wearing the disguise, including the strongest chest binder in the world. Next we go to Arnold, who tells Norlan that most of the terrorists are dead and will finish off the rest.
Oh, shut up, you twat.
During the meeting among Kuroto, Isao, and Roze, Roze learns everything went to hell while she was away. Her sadness prevents her from not knowing what to do next. Isao clutches Roze in frustration, and Kuroto calms everyone down. This didn't do anything as well because she's still lost in melancholy. Then we go to Nara, who agrees to Norlan's request to conduct peace negotiations with the UFN. I've got many things to say concerning Nara. I'll hold on to that for another time. Just know I'm not finished with her yet. Am I right, Cecile? Cecile? Oh god, you want to go again? Wasn't once enough for you? Let's wait a little longer. Also, I thought I said that we can't do this on videos anymore. What part of that did you not understand? Horny scientist, am I right, fellas? Ow! Anyways, we return once more to the Black Knight's base, where a familiar face, Gino, welcomes us. He explains why we never encountered Norlan earlier. Ready for this? Drum roll, please. He stayed out of the public eye and took orders from Charles directly. I don't know, Gino, does that explain why he was never present in any of these scenes? Cornelia then joins the Discord call to let everyone know to not show weakness during the negotiations. Cornelia then shows us her new hairstyle. She looks amazing. Guilford, you are a lucky man. Then we return to Sakura, who reflects on her efforts. She thinks they're working thanks to the announcement of the peace talks. However, a salty Walter draws her back to reality, reminding her they aren't. Bro knows what's up. Then why are you following Norlan? Sorry, let's move on. At the Seven Shining Stars hideout, everyone assumes these peace talks are just a decoy for something worse. This entire scene unfolds like the situation with the SAS, where just like the Black Knights, the Seven Shining Stars don't trust this. However, they must act cautiously as their actions might seem as malevolent in the eyes of the world. Then Roze goes through shell shock, her memories. I was thinking of what I've been going through since watching the show for a second. Anyways, she regains her resolve to recapture all that Neo Britannia took from her and Japan. So a few months passed. What events arise during that time? Who knows? We travel to that weirdo Stanley who's almost done with the Roombas, and Norlan is hooked to them. Not sure what's going on here, we just know that Stanley is excited. so it's not good. Norlon claims that this will save everyone. I hope he's not referring to how Shin wanted to save everyone. We return to the trailer. Ash realizes he hasn't seen Raspberry in a while. The fool still doesn't realize that Sakya is Raspberry, so she just tells him. Ash is now scarred for life. The bro simped for the woman who turned him into a slave. I can only imagine how broken he feels right now. Also, those kittens from episode 1 are older. Now we move on to the worst section, the negotiations. Nara travels through an opening slot of the Satumpe wall. Not gonna go through that Pandora's box, that comes later. Then the ridiculous meeting starts. The UFN member with the crazy blonde hair starts off. His requests are valid, however they are unlikely to occur. Then Nara shows her counteroffer. Somehow Nara's concerns regarding how public safety has deteriorated due to the past anti-Britannian sentiment or accounting problems arising on the Britannian side means they outplayed the UFN. Somehow they had material that could counter the major issues with Neo-Britannia's existence. The story just tells us this without going into it any further. All I can think is,
from bean to cup, you fuck up.
Cornelia then recommends getting Kaguya to return to the UFN since she left for some reason. I guess Schneisel had more crucial matters to attend to. Then we go to Catherine and Sakura. Sakura choosing to discuss her ideas with Natalia upset Catherine, so Catherine points a gun at her. Then Sakura uses Rule 34 Yuri magic to stop her. Catherine has a flashback of her childhood, while Sakura tells her to not take advantage of weak people. Then Catherine says in an undertone, if you're weak, then you die. Then Cornelia makes her sexy entrance with her boyfriend Guilford to where Kaguya is living at the moment. They successfully convince Kaguya to return to the UFN. Allegedly, this whole thing is a game of logic, so Kaguya would do well here. Where was that logic during turn 20? Huh? Sorry, I'll save that for another video. Anyways, if she didn't return, the piece would be in name only. Also, I kinda feel sorry for Kaguya since she didn't inherit some of the key Sumeragi traits, if you know what I mean. Also, this hasn't aged well.
Ogi!
Yes?
Tell me, why aren't you still Prime Minister? That natural apathy catch up with you?
You are a hypocrite.
Now we get to the section of the episode where everything goes wrong and the character parade starts. So what was Norlon's grand scheme this whole time? Well, for the second time, drum roll please. Giant Roomba human blenders. This isn't a joke, this is actually unfolding right now. Let's save my ranting for a future video. The character parade starts with Gino talking to Ryo Konishina from Lelouch of the Resurrection manga. So does that mean that Benio, Schnee, and Savitri are also canon to this timeline? That would be awesome. Anyways, even though it's the year 2025, the technology is still not advanced enough, so the footage of the Roombas was hard to make out. Eventually, we see them blending people, and Gino is in shock. I feel the same way. Maybe not for the same reasons though. At the Black Knight's base, Nara discusses that Kaguya rejoining the UFN is going to make things difficult, even though Nara should have lost on the onset. Then the Roombas attack the base. Even their nightmare frames are ineffective against them. Where's the new Sarlans, Vincent Vards, and Garifs? Why are they using antiquated nightmare frames? Anyways, Nara then wonders if this is Norlon's doing.
Fuck's sake, Jesus! Christ! Adjects have turned to fucking smug and glum, haven't we? Fucking retarded!
I can't understand how stupid this character is. You are such a gullible fool. Ash warned you of this, and Norlon showed his true colors earlier. I can't even right now. You know what, Cecile? I think now's a good time. I'll be right back. Okay, I have returned. The character parade continues at Port Kobe, where the W0 members Akito, his girlfriend Layla, along with her cat Eliza, Yukiya, Ryo, and Ayano finally made it to Japan, and they are having a great time. Not sure why it took almost 8 years to make the trip. I guess it doesn't matter since they're at least here now. Also, they chose the worst time to travel to Japan. Next on the parade, we head to Zilkstan. You remember Zilkstan, right? The location where the events of Resurrection unfolded. Anyways, we see an older Nunnally talking to some children with an older Arthur, and even Forknar, bless his soul, is with them. Then we see the magnificent return, the Knight of Zero. Acting as Zero, Suzaku Kore freaking Rugi is here, and now 4 years later is finally ready to take action against Neo Britannia. The Digimon World Tour continues at the Britannian Republic. Schneizel isn't around, but Alderaan and Sokika are, as they assist everyone. Then at Cape Town, we get the glorious cameo of Orpheus and Mary, and not only are they alive, but they have been together all these years. So Orpheus cucked his sister to keep Mary for himself. Well, she was asexual, so I guess it's fine. I can't wait for that reunion though. Then we return to the Sumari Cafe, where I had to look online to find his name. Valen Stark, with a rocket launcher, is going to shoot the Roomba. Mei is on a call with Sakuya, telling her what's going on. The human blender smashes into the cafe, Valen shoots it, and then the call gets disconnected. I know this is supposed to be a serious moment, but all I can think is,
Hello? Hello, operator? I believe my party's been disconnected.
Jokes aside, Roze is in shock and the episode ends. That was the craziest thing I've seen in a long time. Seriously, what the heck did I just watch?
これが嘘ではない現実の答えだ飲み込まれるふざけるな事実は一つだけだお前たち親は俺と7人を捨てたんだよお前の世界は俺が否定する消え失せろ第98代皇帝シャルルジ・ブリタニアは私が殺した
そういえばお前はブリタニア王家の血を引く者だったな
シャルルおじいさま
Yep, you heard that right. Somehow Charles has returned, and I will explain how. But we gotta go through the whole episode to learn exactly how we got to this moment. And that begins by discussing Stanley's fate. So I got good news and bad news. The good news is he finished his work connecting the Falbout to the Roombas. Bad news, he was no longer useful. So rest in peace, Stanley. Then we pick up from where we left off in the last episode. We see this gigantic submarine launching all the Roombas in the ocean, and these human blenders of death travel everywhere. Waikiki, Honolulu, Hawaii, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Dubai, United Arab Emirates, Port Kobe of Japan, Zilkstan, Britannian Republic, Cape Town, South Africa, and 48 other major cities. With a global threat, we need a team to fight back, so Gino went full Nick Fury and summoned the Avengers of Code Geass. This starts with the Wyvern Squad from Akito the Exiled, consisting of Akito, Ayano, Yukiya, Ryo, and Layla. They fight back using the old Alexanders with Layla as their commander. If you don't remember, this is Ryo's Nightmare Frame, Yukiya's, and Ayano's. By the way, let me know in the comment section below, which do you prefer? CGI Alexanders from Akito the Exiled, or the 2D animation Alexanders from Roze of the Recapture? Then in Zilkstan, Suzaku fights the Roombas in a Maharoba, spotting the Lancelot colors. Also, Suzaku says this:
They dare threaten the peace of humanity?
Dude, that's rich coming from someone who ignored the conflict in the Hokkaido block. You think that's crazy? Well, business is about to pick up as we move to the Oz of the Reflection section, where Glinda Knight members Alderaan and Sokika attack the human blenders using their respective nightmare frames. Alderaan in the Lancelot High Grail and Sokika in the Sheffield Eye. By the way, I love both of their English dub voices.
Control room. I need a status report. Ugh, we're really in for it now, aren't we?
It was really nice to see them animated and talking. Then in Cape Town, we can see Orpheus in the Byakuyan from the distance, and later we get a close-up of this awesome nightmare frame. Of course, we can't forget Maribel, who is with Orpheus serving as emotional support. I guess her nightmare frame piloting days are over. Back at the Black Knight base, Gino tells Ryo to send word for all nightmare frame pilots that they can find. This is kind of like the mustering of the Rohirrim. So does that mean that Q1 is coming back? Let's hope so. We have to move on from the side characters to the main ones because Roze and Ash are traveling once again in the trailer, now sitting next to each other, showing their newly established bond. First, Roze talks to Kuroto, who tells her that the Roombas are in the Luxembourg domain. Natalia then calls Roze, letting her know that they are fine, but Sakura could be in danger. I thought Natalia was in jail, but okay. The call gets disconnected, and we see a Roomba headed towards the Neo-Britannian Government Office Imperial Palace, where Sakura is currently at. Normally I don't talk about the intro because it sucks, but they finally add some new changes. We see a close-up of an unknown child, and then later on we see the reveal of Norlan's eyes. Stick with me, we will get to that soon. After the intro, we see the Black Knights use antiquated nightmare frames to fight the Roombas. So bad in fact, Nara had to save a member from certain death by taking out that Roomba. Despite this act of heroism, the other Black Knight members threaten and blame her for these attacks. Honestly based. Then Shiro calls them off, saying that Nara helped them, and it's stuff like this that makes peace a pipe dream. Shiro, piss off you moron. There's so much stupidity in that line that deserves its own video. Anyways, Nara says judge me now for my actions moving forward. Well, we have to, since prior to this, you committed awful atrocities while working and supporting a genocidal psychopath, unlike my beloved Cecile. Isn't that right?
Anyway, please try one of these.
Oh, you know what? Maybe another time. Look, I'm not in the mood for indigestion right now. Ow! Roze and Ash meet up with Yuno to prepare the Z Ortigia for flight. After much discussion, Roze agrees to save Sakura, leaving the Luxembourg domain to the 7 Shining Stars. By the way, that's where May and Valen are, and that's why Roze was concerned about the area. Anyways, Roze and Ash make their way to the Imperial Palace. At the Imperial Manor, located at the Imperial Palace, Sakura wants to talk to Norlan to learn what's going on, but Walter insists that she doesn't. He states that Norlan won't tell her anything, and because she's the most important person in the nation, she should use her authority to help out. Sakura agrees, but a Roomba attacks the mansion. Does Sakura know that Natalia was taken prisoner before? Who cares? Let's move on. At the Luxembourg domain, the 7 Shining Stars save May and Valen from that Roomba, and then Haruka later saved Minamori from the same Roomba. I don't know if they knew that Roze was close to these people. Also, Haruka wonders if these Roombas are attacking the whole world.
Ooh, that's a bingo! You just say bingo.
And of course, Haruka is still channeling her inner Colin. After the break, we briefly see Walter and Sakura trying to escape from the Roomba. They decide to head underground. Then we see Ash and Roze, who are close to arriving at the Imperial Manor. Roze hopes that Sakura is okay after seeing that the manor was destroyed from the distance. Ash speculates that they safely evacuated before its destruction. Sakura and Walter head underground, and of course, run to Catherine. After much back and forth, Catherine agrees to help them, something that surprises both Walter and Sakura. Ash and Sakuya land on the mansion only to be greeted by a Roomba, which they destroy with ease while Arnold watches from the window. Man, if these Roombas are that weak, give Colin and Suzaku their nightmare frames from Resurrection, and this whole thing gets resolved in a matter of hours. Anyways, Roze searches the whole mansion only to not find Sakura, then meets up up with Ash, who found Norlan's chambers. Roze deactivates her necklace so she can use Geass on Norlan. This is stupid since Kristoff created anti-Geass countermeasures, which Norlan would obviously have, and Sakuya knows this. So they make their way in, and Roze finds a secret underground pass, a computer monitor showing all the areas that the Roombas are attacking. We even learn the name of these machines, which are Loki, which stands for Lethal, Onslaught, Keen, Agility, Invincible, if you give a shit. Also, this is like the acronym Satan in the Gurren Satan 8 Elements, only worse. Sakuya realizes that Norlan must be underground and maybe with Sakura. Then Ash sees the swords that Norlan killed Nicole with, which triggered his PTSD, arguably one of the best moments in the entire series. Roze tries to snap Ash out of it. While they walk together in the tunnels, Catherine considers what Sakura said to her earlier. Then we learn about her past through a flashback. So basically, when Catherine was a little girl, a random man attempted to kidnap her, killing her parents in the process. Conveniently, Norlan was there to kill him and save Catherine. This is where Catherine first believed that might makes right. She thought he was awesome in that moment. I think Norlan orchestrated this whole thing. So Norlan is basically the evil version of Dalton by gathering orphans, only raising them to become psychopathic killers. Following the flashback, Catherine starts doubting her might makes right philosophy. She asks Sakura what she meant by true strength. Sakura explains it is when you use your power to help out others, even if you don't have much to begin with. I know, it's rocket science. And of course, we get another Catherine boob jiggle during this. Wouldn't want you to take this too seriously now. Anyways, Catherine gives them her device, which will grant them access to leave the mansion. Catherine walks away, finding this whole thing annoying, something we both agree with. Back to Ash and Roze. Ash snaps out of it, but before he can join Sakuya, Arnold walks in, pointing his gun at Ash. This was so silly. Anyways, Ash tells Roze to head out to Norlan on her own while he takes on Arnold in hand-to-hand combat using those swords on the wall. Arnold ended his whole career when he said,
"With those weapons you seem to remember so well."
So the two start their duel of fates. This reminded me of Akito vs Shin, Jerry vs Sayako, and Sayako vs Suzaku. Roze heads downstairs where we see the foul bout and all its glory. She tries to use Geass on Norlan and of course it doesn't work. He also has a shield to block her bullets. Sakuya asks Norlan what's his goal in all of this mass murder. Norlan states it's to exterminate the human race, just like the Daleks.
Exterminate all humans! Exterminate! Annihilate! Destroy!
Also,
we'll see about that, bitch.
Norlan mentions that Sakuya is of royal blood, so he takes off his mask. And we finally get the face reveal. He has purple eyes, but then, this is the crazy part, Sakuya says, before Norlan answers him, we have to disappointingly quickly finish the final battle between Ash and Arnold, where Arnold does his Tim McCarver impersonation in stating the obvious. Then Ash defeats him using the Nala move. Since we didn't see him die on screen, Arnold will be back. Heck, he survived his nightmare frame explosion. At this point, I would say he is indestructible. Now, back to Norlan. What does he say in response to Sakuya? Well, the answer is yes. He is Charles, or to be accurate, a clone of Charles. You see, Charles used the research of one William Bish, the same man whose research gave us that wonderful clone story. Charles created Norlan to pass on his consciousness to if he was too old to finish the Ragnarok connection. They never explained how that would work, by the way, but Charles died, so Norlan was left alone, and here are the results. So in a way, Charles really did come back, and they did copy Disney.
From a certain point of view.
And not only did they copy Star Wars, but they also copied Full Frontal from Gundam Unicorn, a clone of Char and the leader of Neo Zeon.
But wait! There's more!
They also copied Roze from Gundam Seed, who was a clone of Mu La Flaga's father, Al Da Flaga. And of course, just like Norlon, he also wants to wipe out all of humanity. Just when I thought this series couldn't sink any lower, here we are. Anyways, Sakia plays the guess the villain's motivation game. Norlon says no to everything she asked, but she did miss some questions, which Norlon has to play defense for the writers. Are you doing this because the writers ran out of ideas?
It is not.
Are you doing this because the writers want to copy Star Wars?
It is not.
Are you doing this as a copy of Full Frontal from Gundam Unicorn or Roze from Gundam Seed?
It is not.
Then there's my personal question. Do you think Roze is doing a good enough job in recapturing the magic of the original anime?
It is not.
At least he answered that one honestly. Anyways, Attack of the Clones Norlon climbs into the Falbout, discusses how he can see all the data from the Falbout. We get one more close-up of Full Frontal Cruze Neo Xenania Norlon, and then to top it all off, he copies Thanos of all people. From Avengers, Gundam to Star Wars, this episode copied from all of them. And that's why, even though it was enjoyable at times, this episode was horrible. It feels like I'm watching a terrible rendition of Better Things. Roze of Recapture, episode 11, showcased Haruka revealing that Kuroto is her father, which reminded me of Colin learning that her mother stayed for her this whole time. Sakura made a speech to rally her people, just like Layla did in Akito the Exiled. Kaguya finally returned to action, working with the UFN, so they will help the Black Knights. We get a final Nightmare Frame battle to close out the series, just like in the OG anime, Akito the Exiled and Resurrection, and so much more. The episode begins by continuing where we left off, with Norlon using the Falbout to activate his flying fortress. He used the same technology that he showcased in the previous episode. Ash boards the Apollo while Sakia heads to his location. After the intro, Ash uses his /Harkins to board Norlon's flying fortress, even though Roze wishes he wait for her to support him. But Ash doesn't want to miss this chance to defeat Norlon. I mean, these things aren't mutually exclusive, but whatever. Remember when I said Stanley died in the last episode?
I lied.
He's still alive, at least for now. Stanley sends an email detailing everything about the Falbout, the Lokis, and Norlon to the Black Knights before a Loki turns them into a blood smoothie. So now I can officially say, rest in peace Stanley. From the email, Gino learns what the Lokis are and that Norlon is controlling them through the Falbout. He sends this data to their forces, then requests clearance to go to the Hokkaido block. Also, and I'm not sure how, but their defenses are nearing their limit. On his flying fortress, Norlon runs into Catherine, who readies her Nightmare Frame to fight him. She asks him one question. Then we see that Walter and Sakura have escaped the mansion using Nightmare Frames. They also have some Neo-Britannian forces accompanying them. Sakura decides to go back to the front shrine. Then we head back to the Seven Shining Stars hideout. Kuroto talks to Haruka about why she isn't deploying. Then Haruka makes a request if she can lead the next operation as second in command. Kuroto just says yes, even though Haruka hasn't exactly proven herself to be a competent leader. I guess it takes one to know one.
He got you there, friend.
She then wonders why Kuroto doesn't even question her request. This leads to the grand reveal at this whole time. Drum roll, please. Haruka is Kuroto's daughter. I guess she was lying in episode 1. I wish they would clarify what she meant by that. Anyways, Kuroto says this decision has nothing to do with her being his daughter. Then he asks her to come back alive. Another unearned moment that's more confusing than wholesome. Also, it reminded me of Colin's mother's reveal in episode 9. We go back to Catherine, who starts attacking Norlon, but was ineffective. She shouts at Norlon about how his strength used to impress her. Then Norlon uses a Geffion disturber blast to turn off her nightmare frame. Catherine is upset, believing that Norlon used this tactic against her because she isn't a worthy opponent. Not gonna lie, that's pretty base to me. Then Norlon does his Air Force One impersonation and tosses her off his sky fortress. We don't see Catherine land, so she's probably fine, especially with her built-in airbags. Sakya finally gets to the Z Artemis, then heads out to Ash. Ash during this time tells her he's close to the top of the sky fortress. Norlon begins the next phase, which is to activate another ability of the Satumpe wall to cover the entire island, essentially forming a cage. So nightmare frames can still work, but now there's an aerial covering. This aerial covering causes Sakya to change course. Sakuya assures Ash that she will find a countermeasure against this. Sakuya isn't sure why the wall is doing this, but has to put that aside to figure out her next course of action. First, she thinks about taking out each of the towers, an act that could have ended the show 3 episodes ago, but obviously can't do that now because it's too late. Of course it is, you moron. Next, she tried to look for a control device. Originally, each tower had a regional control, but now that's not the case. That information would have been useful to know earlier. Anyway, somehow through scrolling on her nightmare frame display, Nara's name came up, so Sakya decides to go through her. At the Black Knight's base, Nara and Shiro discuss how they can't reach Norlon because of the Satumpe's wall's current coverage. Shiro says that even if they deactivate the barrier, Norlon is too high for most nightmare frames to reach him. Man, wouldn't it be useful if there were like these energy cannons whose range extends to above the clouds? Oh well, I guess those don't exist in this universe. Then Karu enters the room to inform Shiro that Roze wants to talk, so they start the video call. How did Roze know that Nara was at the Black Knight's base? Don't know. Anyways, Roze asks Nara for the location of the control device. Nara tells her it's on the top floor of the front shrine and even has a landing pad. By the way, Nara has to ask why Sakya needs this information as if it wasn't obvious. A better question is why you didn't suggest something like this. You really are a moron, unlike Cecile. But I mean, that's not really a fair comparison since Cecile is a brilliant scientist, and what exactly are you? Not much. Oh, you're not in the mood? Well, that's a surprise. Ow! Oh well, I'll check back later. Anyways, Sakya heads out to the front shrine. Shiro tells his forces to head out as well, which upsets the dumb chairman. But then Kaguya thankfully joins the call to let everyone know that she will persuade the UFN to allow this. Roze enters the top floor, then gets access to the Satumpe wall, but runs into an issue where the system doesn't recognize her as Norlon and shuts off all power to the front shrine. Roze panics, but then gets a call from Yoko. Yoko then transfers the channel to Kuroto. Kuroto tells Roze that they are going to assist her in deactivating the wall. This is the only time where Sakai was actually useful in being a liaison. Anyways, Roze says there's a specific thing she needs help with. Ash is then shown climbing the Sky Fortress. The operation begins with the diversion team working towards distracting the Lokis while the main team makes their way to restore the front shrine's power. A Loki captures a 7 Shining Star member, and before Haruka can go back and save him, Isao tells her that a leader can't do this because it slows down the whole unit. That's ridiculous since everyone else could go ahead while she does this and catch up to them in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. In the time Isao told Haruka this, she could have saved that guy's life. Here, Haruka, listen to someone who actually understands what being a good leader is.
You might stand a fair chance of getting away if you'd only abandon the injured girl because she's just excess baggage at this point.
A ruler's duty is to his people. Without them, he is no king at all.
Also, we get another Ash shot because why should we take any of this seriously? Then Ash finally gets to the top of the Sky Fortress. The Lokis then appear exactly where the main forces are going. How convenient. So Isao Sao decides to do a kamikaze attack to take them out. I mean, they could just drop the bombs from the VTOLs while also taking out the Roombas from the sky, so no one has to die? Whatever, it's fine. Haruka then completes a side quest and restores the power to the front shrine. Sakuya regains access to the Satunpe wall. I guess the device on a reboot doesn't restart the authentication process, even though that's not how that works. Anyway, she's able to overload the Satunpe wall to bring it down. Also a shame that Sakuya's royal bloodline didn't play a role in getting her access to the control panel. Outside of the wall, the Navy along with Cornelia observed this. The Satunpe wall towers 27 to 30 stopped working. I think it was probably more than that. Also, this brings up more issues, but that's another story for another time. The point is the aerial wall is down, so Sakuya can go help Ash. As the old expression goes, there's no rest for the weary because more Loki come to attack the 7 shining stars. But then a salty Walty arrives to assist the 7 shining stars. Sakura then does her Layla impersonation by addressing the whole nation to assist the 7 shining stars and fight against Norlon. We don't see the response of the public, unlike in Akito the Exiled, so who knows if this worked. And also, no one respected Sakura, so why would it work to begin with? Forget it, the show is amazing and this is fine. Norlon and Ash have their long-awaited reunion. I would love to tell you exactly how long, but this story didn't explain the timeline well in episode 7, so who knows? Anyways, Norlon tells Ash that the Satunpe barrier only served to buy him time to advance his plan, and then he said the same system was integrated into the Falbout, which explains the Gefyan Disturber beam. Norlon claims that his nightmare frame is stronger than all other existing systems. I don't know, the Gurren flight-enabled version had a similar capability, and that was 7 years ago. I would imagine now the Gurren type special is probably stronger than the Falbout. Sakuya heads out to Ash while Sakura muses that she has done all she can, even though we don't see the results of her actions. Oh, now you're in the mood for it. Well, good timing because we can do this right before the final battle starts. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Ash ignores Norlon's posturing and activates the Megista Zeta. Norlon humors Ash in choosing to fight him. Once again, a Geass series ends with a final Nightmare Frame battle. Ash's one-note tactics don't work against the man who trained him. Who knew? Therefore, Norlon had the upper hand during this fight. Norlon knocks Ash outside the palace, so the battle continues outside of it. Ash tries one last move, which is to jump in front of the Falbout as it fires the Gefyan Disturber beam. Okay, and as an added twist, the Nightmare Frame head spins, revealing a different head that has a built-in Gefyan Disturber beam. Both shots render the Z Apollo and Ash useless. Norlon then activates the Falbout's Titan mode, which includes a new kind of energy wing system. Then he flies in the air, holding the Z Apollo. Then he drops Ash from the sky. Roze is on her way, but can't get a hold of Ash, but sees him falling in the distance. At least, I think she sees him falling. She still tries to reach him, but can't. During this, we see Norlon flying in the sky in the Falbout's Titan mode, and the episode ends. If you turn your brain off, then this episode had some awesome Nightmare Frame action, especially the Falbout, and some other awesome moments sprinkled within. Turn your brain on, and reality sets in that this episode opens up all the plot holes in one instance, like a wounded soldier in surgery. Combine that with the rushed nature of the episode and more last-minute character development, then you have possibly the worst episode in the series. The crazy part is, we still got one more of these to go, and I can't see how they are going to wrap up everything nicely in one episode. But hey, who knows? Maybe they'll surprise me. Let's be honest though, that's probably not going to be the case.
That was the worst thing I have ever seen. And I was in Nam.
Well guys, this is it. The final episode of Roze of Recapture. How will Ash and Sakuya defeat Norlon? What will be the fate of the Hokkaido block? How will they resolve all the subplots? And did Catherine's built-in airbags save her? Let's find out. The final episode begins by giving us another update on the human, Roomba, Blender, Loki, plot device, death machines. First we head to the Britannian Republic, where we witness more of the human blending, including these idiots in the pink car. Then we see that the military found the submarine that's launching the Loki. They attempt to stop it with one ship firing weak torpedoes. Considering that Nightmare Frames have been able to travel underwater since R1, this attack plan was dumb. Also, this scene is an insult to the one in Turn 7, where a fleet of ships assaulted the Black Knight submarine. Where was that counter-offensive here? After that failure, we go to Tokyo, where finally, after 11 episodes, Colin Kozuki makes an appearance. I think she's studying at the university there, although she's been doing that since Resurrection, and that was 4 years ago. So what is she doing now? Speaking of Resurrection, she is piloting the same Gurren type special and wearing the same Nightmare Frame pilot uniform from that film. Colin looks amazing and seems bigger now, if you catch my drift.
Oh, yeah.
But I hate her one line that feels generic and out of character.
I won't sit back and let you murder people!
And they wasted her Nightmare Frame piloting abilities and her OP Nightmare Frame. Next, we travel to London to see how they're doing. Gino and Cornelia discuss the situation while we see the action in real time. Cornelia asks how much longer they can hold out for. Gino says 3 days, which makes no sense. Also, the Roombas do this weird trampoline nonsense to launch each other into a Nightmare Frame base, where a Roomba kills his random, beautiful Nightmare Frame pilot, keeping the Code Geass tradition alive of killing beautiful women who barely appear in the anime. We head back to Waikiki, Honolulu, Hawaii, where Cornelia finally joins the battle in her Quinn Roze Model Z. She also takes out some Roombas. Gino joins in his new Tristan Divider, which includes a new paint job. Both note how the Roombas just don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming.
Fed to the rules and I hit the ground running.
And Gino states they must stop Norlon to end this. Wow, Gino, that was brilliant. I had no idea. I'm glad you're here to tell us these things. We then see Norlon floating above the planet, enjoying the Purge Human Blender Roomba Loki edition. Norlon wants to savor this moment. Okay, still not sure what the plan is, assuming all of humanity does get wiped out. I know that you're eager to get back to the Nightmare Frame wreck of an ending, but if you're enjoying the content, please like and share the video and subscribe to the channel. I know this is the end, but as the legend once said,
End? No, the journey doesn't end here.
Because now that the series is over, this is where the fun begins. I can now make videos that analyze the entire series, and trust me, there are lots of things to talk about, so you're not going to want to miss this. But to make that happen, I need your support. Alright, I'm done e-begging, let's get back to the recap. After the intro, we see Ash's pets, including those 2 cats who have grown quite a lot since episode 1, but you haven't seen anything yet. Then a Black Knight informs Kaguya that she needs to deliver her statements in the main conference room. By the way, for the 1% of people watching that think that that blonde woman looks familiar, well, it's the same person we saw in Resurrection, and I still want to know what her name is. If you know, let me know in the comment section below. Anyways, Kaguya readies herself to make the speech. Continuing where we left off from the last episode, Ash is still falling, and now Sakya finally sees him. She catches him with the Z Artemis, and then they fly into Norlon's Sky Fortress. Why does Norlon not do anything to stop them, since they could ruin his plan? Right, Norlon, Charles, you are not. Anyways, Sakya uses the emergency escape hatch to help Ash out of the Nightmare Frame and learns the Apollo isn't working. So she suggests fighting Norlon on her own. Ash is of course against this. Sakya wants to protect Ash and the world, instead of being the one that requires protecting. She then reflects on her past actions to save Sakura. This includes using her Geass power that caused so much harm. During this, we relive scenes from the previous episodes. After all of this, Sakura decides to take responsibility for the fight she started. This is all really good stuff. Ash agrees, but wants Sakura to use her Geass on him to enhance his abilities. This is just like how the Live command worked on Suzaku. Sakura opposes this, even calling the Geass a curse, but Ash then takes off her wig, saying it's not a curse, but a vow, and he wants Sakura to shoulder his vow. By the way, can we all agree that there's no way that that wig could hold her hair like that? It was questionable with C2, but here it's just dumb. Sakura uses Geass on Ash again, which is the second time in this IP where someone used their Geass twice on the same person, since their first command was removed by a Geass canceller. The first incident was with Lelouch and Shirley. Suzaku, sorry, I meant Ash says, "Yes, your majesty." This whole thing reminded me of Suzaku and Lelouch working together during the Zero Requiem. Kaguya then addresses the UFN. She speculates that the Roombas have killed hundreds of thousands of people. I think it should be higher, but okay. She continues to explain what the Loki are, that Norlon is controlling them, a plan is in motion to stop him, and we must survive until Norlon is defeated. That was a pretty lame speech, especially for someone like Kaguya. Not sure what it accomplished. We also see the Blenders killing people in Cologne, Germany during her speech. After Kaguya is done being pointless, Ash and Sakura start up their nightmare frames. Sakura shared energy from the Z Artemis to the Z Apollo. That's not a bad idea, but instead, why not travel back to the Seven Shining Stars hideout or any other bases, grab new energy fillers, and return to the battlefield? I mean, Norlon isn't going anywhere, and it was stated that the Z Ortega can fly at insane speeds, and we know this because we observed its insane escape velocity when it travels above the atmosphere in seconds. The whole thing just felt contrived for what happens next. Anyways, Sakura and Ash combine for the last time. No, not like that, and travel in space to fight Norlon. I'm still not over the fact that Nightmare Frames can now do this. The escape velocity seems faster than our modern rockets. We went from this to this in 8 years. Anyways, they fly up to start their final battle against Norlon, who just says, I mean, you could have killed them several times before this. You have no issues killing random people without a second thought, but won't kill the only two people that can stop you. Well, 4 if you count Suzaku and Colin, but the show doesn't, so I won't either. Whatever, it's fine, it's fine. To defeat Norlon, Ash and Sakura come up with a plan. Ash informs Sakura that the Fallout has at least 10 laser cannons that work like the Satumpe wall, so the plan is to figure out where those cannons are and their limitations. Sakura has to give Ash different movement patterns since Norlon knows all of his. The Z Ortega then flies around the Fallout, baiting him to fire his lasers at him. And just like that, they brought back the meme. I'm firing my lasers! During this tower defense fight, Norlon notes how Ash's movements are different, so someone must be navigating him. No shit, my dude, you saw Sakura save him earlier. Wow. Anyways, Sakura tells Ash to pull back since she got all the data on the cannons, which there are 14 of, and no blind spots. Not good. Sakura says that they can only damage the Fallout with their melee weapons, something that Catherine found out the hard way. Oh, by the way, why doesn't Norlon just charge them head on to kill both of them? Who knows? Whatever, it's fine, it's fine. Since they have to get close, Ash and Sakura test how close they can get. During this, Norlon knocks them into his sky fortress, giving Sakura another concussion. Again, Ash has to wake her up. Hopefully these past concussions don't have any long-term side effects.
And the brain damage. And the brain damage. And the brain damage.
Then Norlon flies into the fortress, and I'm not making this next part up, he punches them out of the fortress when he could have used the Gefion Disturber beam, thus ending the whole thing. I swear, Norlon wants to lose despite this not being a murder-suicide plan. I'm getting deja vu with the Satumpe wall. Anyways, this attack shakes Sakuya to the core, her will to continue seemingly shattered, but Ash motivates her to keep fighting. He states that through that encounter, they learned that Norlon's reactions are so fast that his control of the Foulbout must be mental instead of physical, so they need to slice off the Nightmare Frame's head to sever that connection. This will require baiting Norlon to continuously fire his laser for 60 seconds. Ash switches the Z Ortega to Megista Zeta mode to engage Norlon. Norlon comments that he thinks they are up to something. Buddy, just finish them off. Your Nightmare Frame is faster and stronger. What is even happening right now? Anyways, the plan works and creates the opening they needed. They baited Norlon to take out the Z Ortega's head, which allows them to remove the Foulbout's head. Then they lock up the Foulbout with their Slash Harkins, and just like how Norlon killed Nicol with 2 blades behind his back, Ash killed Norlon using the same method. I like the parallels here. Norlon then activates some kind of mechanism as he dies with a smile on his face, which further complicates everything. Then we head to Stupidville, where Ash disconnects the Z Apollo from the Z Artemis, so he starts falling with Norlon. His reasoning? Well, if they keep sharing energy, then neither of them can make it back to the surface. Ash also states that Norlon probably has a bomb on the Foulbout and doesn't want that to kill both of them. He then recounts what Jugo said to him about not seeing Sakuya again and dies in the explosion along with the Foulbout. Then we get the worst quality animation that I've ever seen in a long time of Sakuya crying. Seriously, what the hell is that? Then the Sky Fortress blows up. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Is Ash's death sad? Yes, at least I think it is. Was his death easily avoidable? Absolutely. I mentioned the energy filler solution earlier, but he could have used an ejection block, allowing Sakuya to grab him like how most Nightmare Frames work. Ash also could have removed the Slash Harkins and fall in a different area, allowing Sakuya to grab him like how she did before. It's also odd how they didn't wear any spacesuits during their battle against Norlon, despite knowing they would have to fight him in high altitudes. I mean, if you're gonna copy 00, then do it right. This entire fight, while cool in theory, was just stupid, plain and simple. So much contrived, nonsensical nonsense to make it all work. And of course, we can't end a Geass series without a main character's death. Yay! And just like that, we are done. And now it's time for the epilogue. The prologue was terrible, so I can only imagine how bad this one is going to be. We start off at the Lavender House, where Nara appears to be running it. What happened to the nun? Who knows? But then for the final time, the thought Catherine has returned and wants to work at the Lavender House with Nara. Nara says there could be openings, which excites Catherine. I have so many questions right now, like how did Catherine survive? Why is her personality so radically different? Why doesn't she recognize Nara? Why doesn't Nara recognize her? Why aren't these two imprisoned for war crimes? Nara could have gotten a pardon because of her recent actions, but what about Catherine? Honestly, even then it's still not good enough and both should still be in jail. I think they copied Valletta by giving Catherine memory loss and a personality switch. Also, keep the H-anime cringe TikTok dancing braless thought from these children. They have suffered enough, and so have we. So Catherine falls from the sky and survives, and Ash falls and has to die. Yep, another f*** you to the audience. Thanks, assholes. In honor of Ash's death, Sakuya places her plot contrivance necklace on his grave. Does anyone else know about his gravesite? Also, maybe don't abandon an advanced piece of technology in a public area. Here's a thought: save the crystal and destroy the rest, then place the crystal on the grave. She even looks back, possibly realizing the stupidity behind what she just did. Anyways, we go to Kaguya, who is making a speech in front of the UFN in which he starts by saying several months have passed since the Roomba Human Blender Loki plot BS devices were defeated. Of course, they reused the same animation from before. She states that they are still recovering from the devastation. We see them taking apart the submarine with the low-key nightmare frames. Kaguya then states we can't forget the two nameless mercenaries that protected our future. So does that mean that everyone believes that Ash and Roze died? Also, hey Kaguya, the original cast and the extended cast also helped out as well. Maybe you should acknowledge them? Whatever. They also erected a statue of the Z Ortega in honor of the sacrifice. So did the Z Artemis barely make it to the surface and was too damaged to be ever used again? Who knows? But the questions keep on coming. Then Kaguya says they must cherish the peace that the sacrifice gave us. Well, that depends, Kaguya. Is everyone gonna act like morons again? Are you gonna off and leave the UFN again? Anyways, Kaguya then declares that the Hokkaido block will now become a SAR, or Special Autonomous Region, under the control of the UFN. Did Nara negotiate this? What about Sakura? Why not just return the land back to Japan? Who knows? But Kaguya mentions that the UFN will work with Sakura in this department. Then we go to Gino and Cornelia, and I swear, Cornelia gets larger with age. Maybe she recently gave birth to children after marrying Guilford. I'm making a joke here, but in all seriousness, I wish that actually happened. That would explain her absence from the Black Knights discussed in episode 4. Anyways, Gino says that Kaguya's actions wrap up the political stuff. Not sure how, but okay. Then expresses his annoyance that they have to do the cleanup for this, and Cornelia says, well, that's their job. Also, what the f is with her face here? It looks horrible. God, the animation here sucks.
Oh my God, what's wrong with your face?
Gino says indeed, which makes the whole thing another, well, that happened moment. Another f you to the fans. Then we go to two characters that no one cared about at all, Yuri and Sakai. Sakai returns to work with the Black Knights, and Yuri wants to join the Black Knights as a nightmare frame mechanic. Why isn't Rakshata, Lloyd, Anna, Cecile, or Miss X here instead of Shiro? Who knows? Why isn't Nina here to embrace her lover? Who knows? Okay, in fairness, I made up that fact that they are lovers, but why not though? I think Nina deserved it after everything she did in this anime. The characters you don't care about parade continues with Yoko, Oda, and Munamori. They're just drinking and Oda is doing his Tamaki impersonation. Yoko is happy that Yuri is with the Black Knights, but then Oda wonders what they will do now. It makes you realize that these characters had no depth to them at all, so instead they just drink. Oh, and we get another you from the show. Yoko apparently is underage, so this whole time I was looking at a nearly topless busty 16 to 17 year old. Geass, you are such a legend, never change. This also proves that Yoko was a watered down Millie. At least she finally stopped wearing her side hustle outfit 11 episodes later, so that's one positive thing at least. We then get a resolution to that last minute character development between Kuroto and Haruka. Both of them visit her mother's grave. So that's what she meant by killed her family. This makes perfect sense because characters never refer to an individual family member when discussing their murder and instead just use the plural word family.
Seriously? Off show.
Then Kuroto asked if she found a boyfriend using some slang. Haruka then says no one uses that slang anymore, which embarrasses him. Will Haruka go to school to show off her ass to her classmates? Does she have a boyfriend? Who knows, and who the cares? Oh, and they don't visit the graves of Isao, Iwamoto, or Tomi, proving that even the writers didn't care about their sacrifice.
Nice job, everyone. No one cares.
Now we go back to the Hokkaido block where Sakura is now the Empress of the SAR and is going to address the nation. By the way, SAR, SAS.
Yeah, we get the wordplay.
Oh, I forgot to mention this entire epilogue is basically a ripoff from the original anime where the whole world became a better place after Lelouch's sacrifice, only in this case it's Roze and Ash's sacrifice, but unlike here in the original anime, you actually cared about these characters. Anyways, we are at the palace where it all started. Also, Sakura is wearing the Empress outfit that Sakura wore, so the whole thing comes full circle, even though I think Sakura should be leading. Anyways, Sakura uses a Geass on herself to remove the ability to speak, thus sealing her Geass. What? Well, I'll address that in another video. This is similar to when Lelouch used Geass on Mao to prevent him from speaking. That incident also involved Lelouch using Geass on himself with a mirror, which is exactly what Sakuya did. And we learned that her Geass, just like Lelouch's, can be reflected. I'm sure all of this is just a coincidence. Then Sakura enters her room with a new adorable haircut and awesome suit. This is a change that I approve of. Great stuff. Sakura tells Sakuya it's time. She nods and they have subtitles on the screen that translate to understood. But that's not how you say understood using sign language. So what the was that? Sakuya heads out to the balcony to address the people. So my assumption is that she learned sign language in the prior months to prepare for this. Also, Kuroto doesn't resume his duties to help Sakuya. I'm glad they ruined that subplot as well. They zoom in on Sakuya's face and we go to the end credits. But don't just leave just yet because we got a post-credit scene to watch. Yay, it's the Roze verse of multi-madness. We go to the Samari Cafe because we haven't seen Val and May or Natalia yet. After May pours Sakuya some coffee, we see those cats are all grown up and are huge. Seriously, what kind of cats are those? May notes how the cats are close, like a happy family. We also see Natalia and Sakura with Sakuya, so I guess they resolved all those issues with Natalia off screen. Yay. Then Sakuya communicates in sign language, but does May or anyone else understand sign language? In which case, who is she communicating with? Then Sakuya thanks Ash for everything, saying that they are doing well, and then mercifully, the series ends. I want to thank everyone who has been with me on this almost 1 year journey since they announced this series was actually going to happen last November, or those who have been with me since the beginning, or even those who just joined today. So many of you have engaged with the content and I really appreciate it, and don't worry, there's more awesome content to come, videos on this series, Code Geass, and beyond. Thanks for suffering with me through this horrible anime that of course had a terrible end. I feel like I'm missing something important, but anyways, until then, take care.
困ったものね。今度問題を起こされたら、うちの研究所への出資が止まりかねない。
Oh my god, I was so busy with the recap that I forgot about your birthday last week. Ow! 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 Okay, I'm sorry about this and everything else, including Nara. I realize now that you are the true goddess, the most beautiful, kind, and intelligent woman in Code Geass, if not all anime. Can you ever forgive me? I'll take that as a yes.